It's picking up
Okay.
on it's picking up on Carl's two
Oh,
logins and it reverberates a bit.
Right, we're ready.
There we go.
Jimbo, who's that? Carl in disguise, isn't it?
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
We're back to it. Everything's ready to go. How is everybody tonight?
Okay, thank you very much. How are you?
It should be so clear, right? At least I don't look like Gorbachev, like Roger. I don't know where Andy is
What?
tonight, and I don't know if I don't know if, you well. I'm gonna need somebody to because I was waiting for Andy. He hasn't turned up. I was hoping that somebody could maybe sort of, if Andy does come on, um they can add him. So our friend Will has a little bit of knowledge about these things, so that's where we'll go. I would like to say that I would like to start off with thanking everybody for getting their monies over this month. If there's one or two of you who haven't put your monies over this month, then you know it's the usual £50, which is now due for the next, I've forgotten the months are, for the March and April. So those fees are due for those, maybe one or two who haven't paid yet. But everybody else who has paid the fees, thank you very much. So that's that said. I would like to really talk about more to do with the flowing archaeology and how we look at that with Roman era Britain. It's going to be a lot less sort of convoluted and stressed. What I mean by convoluted, we're not going to be needing any references to historians and so on. But I have been talking about Margaret a lot this week. In fact, I've been talking about Margaret a great deal. In fact, infectiously a great deal, right? And the reason why I've been talking about Margaret is that she had sent me an email. Basically, I've been doing the past 3 weeks looking at Caligula, and the next minute she sends me an email almost proving that everything I've been saying was correct. That Caligula did invade Britain. Didn't you, Margaret?
No, I didn't say he invaded Britain. It was just a bit of a mix-up with the word conche and the meaning of it.
Yeah, but hang on a minute, hang a minute. No. We won't do it that way. We'll do it my way. Thank you very much. So Margaret, you're wrong. Right. So Margaret said that the word conche, right, meant boat. Some historians, such as David Woods, his favourite tree's an oak, argued that the word used in ancient sources, conche, Conchae, not to be mixed up with a conchi, as in the Second World War, a conscientious objector like Roger, may have been misunderstood. Instead of these shells, it could refer to a type of light, small boat used by British forces, otherwise known as a coracle or a canoe. In this scenario, Caligula ordered his men to collect enemy ships, which they did, and these were later paraded in Rome as trophies of war. Right now, we've done the Caligula stuff, right? And obviously, the point I'd like to make is, Margaret, how are you supposed to collect enemy ships from the shoreline of the Holland, for example, at Velsen, near Amsterdam? How are you supposed to collect small ships, boats like coracles, if you don't come over to Britain? Anyway, we're not going to say any more. It's your own fault, Margaret. You're not even going to be able to argue for or against that. That proves my point. Caligula did invade Britain. End of story. Job done. Thank you very much. Right. Anything you'd like to say, David?
No, thank you.
Other than the fact that you're not very well, and hopefully you'll get well soon.
No, thank you.
Drina.
No, nothing.
Roger. Sorry,
Oh.
I hit the screen with a spoon, and it seemed to.
Speak up a bit, Carl.
What do you mean, speak up a bit?
It's a bit broken sometimes. I don't know about anybody else. But Margaret might get Dweeny.
Am I sounding clear, Drina?
You're clear, but
it's varying a bit.
Well, we'll crack on. Or maybe I'll sound a bit louder.
Keep facing the mic.
I am facing the mic, Margaret.
Oh, yeah.
Go on, talk to me.
No, I haven't got any news of any kind, actually.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Joe, I was on the phone to somebody last night, and they said, "Will you shut up?" And I said, "You phoned me." Yeah, he said, "You're a bit loud." So that's as loud as I'm going to sound. Right, Gorbachev, anything you want to tell us?
No.
See, he knows his name. Knows his name.
Yes.
Roger, if you join those two red spots together on your head, you look like Gorbachev. Right,
Gorbachev.
Will.
Tоварищ. До свидания.
Will.
Right. For those who don't remember, it was St. David's Day on March the 1st.
I remembered, Will.
Good.
No, you
Glad to hear.
didn't. You liar.
I sent Carl, it's on Facebook, a post about a possible Roman fort near the Roman villa at Great Winchcombe. Now, after last week's talk, I actually went and looked at several various places near Sudeley Castle, Chedsworth, various parts of Cheltenham, which I also sent Carl an email on with the prospect of a question of whether there is a Roman fort buried underground near Cheltenham, south of Cheltenham. I'm a bit reticent to put some of these things into a video and put it on YouTube because if there is any validity in the fact that there are identifiable remains, the guys with the little wands will be out checking all these things out and then the things will be lost. But a good archaeologist might have some friends who could say, why don't you go down the road and have a look at this location? And you might be surprised what you find. Anyway, thank you.
Well, if I give him this banknote for Saddam Hussein, that might get part way to getting it done.
Yeah.
I carry this banknote of from Iraq from 2003 for a certain reason, but yeah, it's with me all the time. Right, Judith.
No, nothing from me this week, thank you.
Judith, sure to ask me one day why.
Turn your light on, Judith. Can't see you.
Sure,
What,
Judith,
sorry?
surely ask me why I've got an Iraqi banknote from Saddam Hussein in my phone, but that's well.
Why have you got that, Carl?
We don't want to be asking insinuating questions about my links to do with that and all the shenanigans that went on in 2003. I was meant to be working in the Baghdad Museum.
Were you?
Oh, that
Yes.
was a bit of a scam, wasn't it?
I was meant to be working there. It was like I had all these emails going back and forth to the Department of Antiquities and so on, and I people were not happy. I had somebody knocking at my door, questioning me. What? Yeah, it didn't go down too well.
But why did they give you a banknote?
Somebody that was murdered in the museum by the American forces. I knew them in the museum, and they sent me a banknote over. The person was murdered by British or American soldiers who was a worker in the museum.
Okay.
So that's a reminder of that person being killed by our troops.
That's sad.
Yes, it is sad. So that's why I keep it in my doodah.
Mm.
So anyway, there's more to that story, much more, but we'll do that another day. When we come across something that's vaguely Iraqi, and we can talk about my days in the museum. But that's life. And then the weird thing was, we were meant to be working in the antiquities department in Libya. That didn't go down well either. So we stopped doing any of that eventually. Right now. I think the big question tonight is more just try to expand our minds, moving away from the archaeology, moving away from the history into the archaeology, and trying to understand what the archaeology means rather than what the history means, right? For once, we are not going to mention a single historian, a Roman historian, and hopefully that's the way we're going to go forward. And when we're doing it this way, we hopefully try to understand the archaeology a little bit better. So, and one way of thinking in that way is when we look at Maiden Castle. Now, if no historians had said anything about the Roman invasion of Britain, we would have been able to work it out somehow, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is that people would be looking in the archaeology and saying 1 minute there was Iron Age Britain and the next minute was the Romans, and what exactly is happening, right? Oh, it must be this Emperor Claudius, because we're suddenly getting loads of Claudian coins across Britain. So it must have been on Claudius's watch that Roman Britain was invaded. The point I'd like to make is thinking about the likes of Maiden Castle. When Sir Mortimer Wheeler excavated with Tessa Wheeler, Lady Tessa Wheeler, his wonderful wife, who was also an archaeologist, in the 1930s, they linked the history in with the archaeology of Maiden Castle. And the history said that the future Emperor Vespasian, who was a general, besieged Maiden Castle, and when they found a number of bodies buried at the back entrance to Maiden Castle, they immediately said that these bodies were related to the siege of Vespasian, roughly AD 44 at Maiden Castle. However, there was no siege at Maiden Castle. It was deserted at that point, and it's later found out that these bodies at Maiden Castle were associated with times of problems in Iron Age Britain when the site was in use or when it wasn't in use. People are buried in the old entranceway of the fort because nobody's using it anymore, except it was jumped to the conclusion that the history tells us what the archaeology is about, which is, from my point of view, going onwards now, tonight and next week and the week after, and on and on and on, we're going to be primarily looking at the archaeology. And for me, that's so interesting. When can you add him on? Wonderful. Can you add him on? Will? I can do it. Bang. Right.
Done.
Good. So one of the things that I've made the mistake writing books is that primarily when I've been looking. Hiya, Andy. When I've been looking at writing books, the history has seemed to set the flow of the archaeology. So even in my own book, my third edition of Romans in South Wales, I've even gone into talking about Caraticus, and I've gone into talking about various things like the Silures, which I say in my own book is a fictional name given to a people by its Roman conquerors, is now outdated as a name to give these people seemingly huge tribal grouping over an extensive area. But even then, people are still using these titles and names when they're writing about the archaeology of Britain, which for me is wrong, because we don't have coins which said Silures on them. We don't have any reference in the archaeology that uses the name Silures at all in one way, shape or form until after AD 43. So I think what I'm going to do tonight is sort of lead you into the archaeology by using just a small number of images, and then sort of saying, well, how do we know this, right? And so let's just get started. So, Andy, before we crack on, anything you'd like to tell us, lovely, other than saving a few lives this week?
No, and I haven't even done that. It's been a quiet week, I'm afraid. Sorry, I got a bit carried away with a report I've got to write. So, and Karen just said, "Oh, haven't you started yet?" And I go, "Oh God, forgot all about it." I do apologise for delaying.
You're not writing a report about the conches, which are thought to be boats which were captured by Caligula's troops, which don't turn out to be shells, which would probably come from Norfolk, which Margaret brought in at the end of the class last night.
No,
don't worry about it, love.
That would be interesting. No, it's the Ash Meadow report for the woodland. So.
Oh, actually, Margaret, we can do that with Andy now. Right. even though we've already discussed this, right? And I knocked Margaret down to the ground, right? And Margaret says, it was like, I don't know when she said this, but it must have been whilst I was presenting, using your doodah emails whilst I'm doing my thing. She said, "Hi, Carl, how about this then interest in her?" Are you sure? That's the type of language that Claire would use. Are you sure? Yeah, right. She said, mistranslation of conche, Conchae. Some historians, such as David Woods, argue that the word used in the ancient sources conche may have been misunderstood. Instead of seashells, it could refer to a type of light, small boat used by British forces, like canoes, coracles, conche. The Welsh still use them. In this scenario, Caligula ordered his men to collect enemy ships, which they did, and these were later paraded in Rome and as trophies of war. Right. The one thing I didn't point out to you, Margaret, earlier on. This is the point. Coracles are not going to be able to make the journey from Norfolk to Amsterdam. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. End of story, right? So, there's only one way you can collect these coracles, and that's in the fen-like landscapes and the coastal regions of Norfolk. There's no other way of getting these boats otherwise. Right, over to you, Andy.
You're absolutely right. Not seaworthy, even on a calm day. I wouldn't want to go it. I mean, there is evidence of larger versions of that, though, isn't it? Like the Brendan voyage and things, which were kind of frameworks with leather skins on and things. So they could have possibly built those as well. But I think you're right. I think that would also suggest that if he did do that, of course, that therefore he went into the fens. So
and there's going to be nothing else in the fens other than
flat, shallow boats. Yeah.
But was it an invasion or just a visit?
Well,
now,
visit.
Yeah, Andy, thank you. Margaret, back to you. We weren't supposed to be doing this tonight, but Margaret, you had to spoil it by leaving this. We could have done it last week. You ruined my day now, right? So, the point is, Margaret, is this, right? We looked intensely at Julius Caesar, and what we saw about Julius Caesar was that it wasn't an invasion at all. But in the history books, it says the invasions of Julius Caesar. It just was not an invasion. It was just a
recce.
He was only here for it was an invasion. How dare you? He wrote it in his own words, right? So he saw, he came, he conquered, and he went home. And we know that Julius Caesar was only over in Britain for about a month on both occasions. When we get to Claudius as well, the historians puff. They tell us that he was here for 16 days, right? And you're thinking, well, okay, so but it was an invasion proper because they stayed. But what is the definition of an invasion? I make the joke, but it's a factual joke about invading Poland, right? Because I told you about my story of my friend. He decided to invade Poland in Warsaw. He put a Welsh flag on the table. There's another bit to that story, and he said he invaded Poland, and that's an invasion. He's there. So define what an invasion is, and that's the problem in history. That's the definition of what these terms mean.
Yeah, well, this David Woods that I gave you his quote.
Don't tell me he's a Graham Hancock fan. Go on.
No, I think he's at one of the Irish universities.
Oh, he's wrong then, if he's Irish.
Is it the University of Cork or Belfast, one of them? I tried to find out a little bit more about him and what he'd written, and I couldn't. Maybe you have to be an academic type person like yourself to to find out. But I couldn't find his theories, his written work. It wouldn't let me in, but it might let you.
As Andy well knows, in the Westmoreland Gazette, I am an eminent archaeologist. So it's
just as a side note on there, the tides.
Go on.
Their high tides are every 14 days. So 14, 16 days staying might be because he came in on the big tide and went and stayed until it had to wait for the next big tide to leave again.
That would make complete sense. It would. It
I
would.
mean, there's no reason why he couldn't go. I mean, boats have been going across the channel for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So he could well have gone.
And final point with this. I don't think I stress this enough, right? What is the big deal of him just coming over here for a couple of hours and going back? There's no why can't you say that? It's just like, so what if he did? Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's more open school if you just look more sensibly at archaeology and history, and not think of it as like, so what if Caligula invaded, right? Or he came over here for a few hours or whatever, right? That's great, it's fine, right? But I think the point I'm trying to make is that we discredit people in history, and we destroy them, and we pillory them, and we remove them from history, the damnato of what the Romans did for so many people. And it's just what we're here to do is just allow people to exist, allow people to have had their moment in history. And I think that needs to be respected, because Caligula did exist, like Caraticus existed, like Boudica existed, like all of these people existed, and I think we should allow them to exist, not to sort of rip them apart. It's like the reinvention of so much history. And I'm a big fan of the American Civil War, and it's just like, if I say to some people I'm a big fan of the Confederacy and the American Civil War, I'm a racist. I'm a right wing extremist racist, and I'm just thinking, hang on a minute, you haven't heard why I'm sort of really into the Confederacy, because it's part of history. It's a big part of American history. Why can't I be interested? Why can't I have my own view? And I think, and my excuse is, when you start looking at the archaeology, it makes it read better. If we think about the American Civil War again, I can say that there were about 2,000 Native Americans actually in the army of the Confederacy. And then you go down, and we know that because on some battlefield sites, you actually find arrows alongside musket balls, because they used Native Americans, because it was easier for them to down an enemy officer, right, with a bow and arrow than it was to use a musket. And so I don't need the history to tell me that they were involved on actually both sides, both the Union and the Confederacy. I can do that. And then if you want to go deeper and look at other things like that, sorry, I've gone off on an American Civil War tangent. I'm only starting to learn now that that when people want to discredit you for being interested in the American Civil War, they always talk about slavery. But the last state in the Union to abolish slavery was in the North. Delaware abolished slavery in December 1865. Which was a little bit after most everyone else. And actually the last people to actually keep slaves in the American Civil War in 1866 or a little bit later were actually Native Americans. They kept slaves. They were keeping slaves, not the Confederacy, not the North. It was and you just start to look at history differently. And I think we should be allowed to read and understand history without being kicked in the gulags all the time. Sorry, quickly. So I can have a right.
Yeah, the only evidence they've got of Caligula being in Britain are those coins. And did you say they defaced a lot of them?
Basically, there's two coins. We juggle two coins in the air. So coins that remove the name Caius, which was Caligula's chosen name.
Yeah.
those were coins that remained in circulation, but most of the coins that we've seen have got the C on them. So if they've got the C on them, it goes C Caesar Germanicus, right? C Caesar Germanicus. Those were the coins of Caligula, right? And so if you see a C still on them, it means that these were coins that missed the censor. And
well, when I was reading up about all of this with David Woods, it seems a lot of historians agree with you that not Tacitus, Caligula was, they think the history has been distorted and they've kind of erased him and exaggerated and made things up to make him look bad for some reason. I don't know why they disliked him so much and why they would do that, but would they have gotten rid of any evidence that he was there?
I would say yes. I would say it wouldn't take much to get rid of any evidence for Caligula. And when we get into looking at the temple of Claudius in Camalodunum, it's very odd that this huge massive temple's been built, and it doesn't ring true. It doesn't ring true with the rest of the archaeology that survives in Colchester, for example. It seems like this big sort of huge massive concrete dome thing, and it's built slightly differently from lots of things. And my inkling is it smoking some kind of drug here, but my inkling is it might be roughly something that may have already been constructing before Claudius invaded Britain, and why. And one of the things that I will mention tonight is that when you look at Camalodunum and when you look at St. Albans Verulamium, they were already very popular localities in regards to archaeology before the date AD 43. And they were when you think about St. Albans, that was very much associated with the likes of Arminius and linked with Conopolinus, the Cativalani, Caraticus, Togodumnus. That's St. Albans, and it's tortuously that's the thing, you see. It's looking at St. Albans before the Romans actually start to build their city there. And it's looking at Colchester, which I'm not really going to do too much more of, but it's looking at Colchester before it moves over to a Roman city, right? But or Colonni or Vicus or whatever you want to call it, because it was a fort as well. And there's for me, as I'm talking now, I've got a belly feeling, right? Not that I've got a stomach ache, which I've got something continually for quite some time, but I've got a belly feeling that I don't want to do the history. I don't want to do it because I just don't believe in it. I just don't want it. I don't want it as part of the storytelling, which I'm an archaeologist. I've got something that I need to that I owe myself. And it's owing myself that many years ago I said that if I ever started teaching archaeology, I would only do the archaeology. But every time I slip into the history, but now I can say we're just doing the archaeology because that's all I need to do. And the point is, that the big point is, we've been doing the archaeology for many months. It's just that we've had this weird wobble that we've got loads of historians coming in, right, recently, right? But you can't do the Iron Age in Britain. Well, no, let's not use the Iron Age. You can't really do the Bronze Age and the Neolithic in Britain using any history because there's no history telling us about it anyway. So that's what makes it really, really interesting. And I don't know if I said this to you guys, but Bill in the other group, right? Bill had been with me for years, right? And he's still there. And I said to Bill, I said, can you remember the walks that we used to go on, Bill? And he explained it to everybody. Okay, I know me and Roger, we have a little bit of a laugh about the excursions we used to do, right? But Bill actually went into he went very serious. He said, yeah, we used to tell us where we're going. And we used to stand in the field. And we used to talk about the bumps and bumps. We used to look up everything there, right? And then we would come back and look at the history. And 9 out of 10 times we were right every single time the way we interpreted the archaeology. But if we'd have gone there using the history to interpret the archaeology, it may have ruined things. But what we used what was around us to interpret what was there, and it worked. And that's what we should be doing. That's how we need to be doing it. And you can't, in many ways, when they found Richard III's body, that was a moment that I sort of lost faith in somewhat of this history archaeology thing, because when they come out and said, oh, 2012, we've just found this body in the car park, the university had known it was there for decades. They just wanted the money and opportunity to do so. The archaeology knew it was, the archaeology knew the archaeology was there, right? The history just sort of gave a little bit more of a story about the body in the car park. Right, let's, as much as fascinating all that is, which it definitely is, let's go. Oh, yes. Right. Now, I was, David's here now, and I was a bit concerned about David, and I've been a bit concerned about Anne, because, as you know, Anne said to me she's struggling at this minute, and she's finding the classes a little bit sort of you know, a little bit later, even though we're saying to people, you know, we can stop at 9 o'clock. And I just thought maybe if a couple of you thought, right, okay, I want to, I don't want to stay until 9. Or maybe Carl, if you started at 6:30 just for me and somebody else and whatever, and I just did a little bit of a chat, right? And they can stay with us until 8:30, right? I'm prepared to do that, but I need to know, right? I can't do it all the time. So I'd be basically saying to you guys, you know, come in at 7 o'clock. But I may already be having a little bit of a chat beforehand for those people who feel that it might be a bit late for them, and that's fine. I understand that. So if people want to connect with me on that, then they can just let me know, send me a message, tell me, and I will do that. But it's not, it would just, and that might help me actually. It sort of, it might help me get some ideas across and develop those ideas. So after, say, if we had a little 1 or 2 people at 6:30, we've already discussed stuff and we've already primed it. So by the time it gets to you guys at 7:10, that's an idea. Anyway, let's crack on. So doesn't include you, Will, because you're a very naughty boy. Right, let's share. And Will's in Canada as well. They're all naughty in Canada. Right. Somebody said to me the other day, can you send me some snow in the post? Don't give Will any ideas, he'll probably do it. Right, okay, pictures. Right, okay, some nice images there. Bingo. And I've shown you this image before, and I think it's a really, really nice image. And this sets where we're going, right? And the reason why I like this image is because it's sort of, we're talking about summertime. We've got a trackway there that's a bit looking muddy, and by the winter, that would all be mud. But the one thing, this is based on the archaeological evidence from Caliver Atrebatum, which would have been at the heart of the Atrebati people. Now, we can use the word Atrebati, not because it's an historical inference, it's because we've got coinage testating to those people, which is basically, well, if you want to know where Caliver Atrebatum is, it's modern day Silchester, which is south west of Reading. Don't do the stupid thing. I had a date with this woman once, and I ended up with her for 4 years. I had a date with this woman once, when we were meeting in Reading, right? And she said, I'll meet you in Reading at the train station. And I phoned her up 20 minutes later. I said, I can't find Reading on the map. And she said, you what? I said, I can't find Reading on the map. She said, what map are you using? And I said, there's something on the map that says Reading, but I can't find Reading. And she went quiet and she said, that is Reading. Anyway, I thought I'd leave that with you. But anyway, back to the archaeology. So we're looking, I love this type of image, and it's sort of a bit of a backdrop to where we are. So what we've done, we spent quite some time leading from Julius Caesar, looking at Caligula, and we've basically been looking at this sort of story. And I think what I'm getting into now is this and Claudius. We've got to move away from Caligula. So what happened in Britain between the start of Claudius's reign in AD 41 and the assassination in January AD 41 of Caligula, and to the night of the summer of AD 43, what was going on? And in many ways, it was a bit like in the archaeology. I can't talk about the history because the history doesn't give me that feel. The archaeology tells us a bit like the build-up to D-Day, right? Now, when you think about it, when I've made that statement, the archaeology is like there's like more coins. There's in Britain. There's more trade objects. There's more things going on in Colchester. There's more things going on in St Albans. There's more things going on at Silchester, Caliver Atrebatum. There's more things going on at Fishbourne, right? It's a period of lots of activity, right? And on the other side of the coast, there's a build-up of doing work at Boulogne, sort of doing work on the harbour, which had already been started by Caligula. At Velsen, Caligula's fort of Velsen, they were sort of doing more work on the harbour, and the archaeology tells us that there's something going on. So if you reverse that from the idea of the D-Day landings and June the 6th, 1944, and sort of you change it around. So obviously the British are building up in Britain to invade France, right? So if we swap that around, you get an idea of the intensity. So if we look strict archaeology, no literary speculation, no retrofitting, what we're seeing is what is archaeologically visible in Britain between the accession of Claudius AD 41 and the Claudian invasion of AD 43. The short answer is almost nothing that shows Roman military presence in Britain, but almost everything that shows a massive build-up of a Roman military presence in France and the Low Countries, for example. But in the backdrop of this, it's almost as if Britain is chugging along, and with Britain chugging along, places like Caliver Atrebatum, places like Colchester, Camundunum, are really starting to fit in with another story. Now, it could have been that the Romans thought, well, we're not going to bother invading Britain, but things would have still continued on our side. Colchester would have eventually been like some of those Gaulish Normandy type towns that were being developed in the Roman world, right? So that's the point. And it's almost as if you could be a Roman trader wandering through the streets of Colchester, almost seeing very much what you would have seen if Colchester was or wasn't under Roman era rule. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a very strange time to be in. So intensity in the archaeology, cross-channel connectivity on this end, but intensely military stuff going on that end. And it's not, this isn't being written down by Claudius. This is being written down in the archaeology. This is what the layers tell us. And a sense of political tension. The political tension is coming through with coins. So we're breaking this down by evidence type. So if we think a little away from this, we can come back to that. We'll come back to this image as well. Let's have a little look at this. So when we take this map, right, and we think names, we think about the Catavalani, that name's on coins. The Eclini, ECE rather than ICE, that's on coins. Trinavantes, that's on coins. Canti's on coins, right? Associated with the Atrebates in coins. And actually other coinage people making people, the Regni, the Belgi people, Triges, the Doboni. So these people are making coins, but the people who are not making coins are the people represented by tribal peoples in Cymru Wales, the Cornovi people, the Brigantes, the Parisi. You could roughly say that these people are quite powerful people, but they don't need the use of coins. But some way around this, and we'll come back to these images again, are these coins, Conobolinus. Now, what I was going to do is I was going to rip little things apart today, right? Kuno, a gold coin. And you're looking at coin and thinking, Conobolinus, we're thinking about the guy who writes about Conobolinus is in fact the writer, William Shakespeare, right? But he tells us the historical narrative of this guy. However, when we look about Conobolinus, the king of the Britons, well, that's history saying it. That's not the archaeology. Conobolinus is making a lot of coins, a very powerful person, very, very powerful in the world of where we are, rantingly powerful, right? So AD 9 to AD 40, right? And we can sort of get an idea of that without looking at the history. We can get an idea that this guy's vent is creating coins. Initially, then they're like just what's going on, and then suddenly these coins become very Romanized, right? And they're issued. Their issue of these coins is vast, sophisticated range of late Iron Age coins. Now, I'm not a fan of metal detecting at all, as you guys know. However, lots of these coins are picked up via metal detecting. Lots are found on archaeological excavations, but the coins themselves are associated with Conobolinus and Conobolinus's tribe, which are the Catavalani. And again, this is not very good. It's not very clear. This is it, but we've got Verulamium there, which is in the centre of the Catavalani territory, and you're thinking that's it's very interesting, Verulamium. One of the things about this is that when you want to make your mark on history, you go to the population centres of the people that you're conquering, right? So when we think about lots, okay, let's just forget about sort of antique history. Just think about the Second World War. To defeat the Germans, you needed to capture Berlin, and the point is that for Rome, you need to get hold of Verulamium, and you need to get hold of Camalodunum, right? That's it. That's all you need to do. These places, there it is in a note. Camalodunum and Verulamium are places that minted coins, and these are the hubs of the status, the direction, the mouthpiece. It may sound odd, folks, but having a mint in any period of history is the same as having a television channel, right? And okay, make this very modern. If you're watching the news now, there's things going on in Iran, and we're not going to talk about whether this is legal or illegal. We're not doing politics, but the point is that the Americans thought, what we'll do, we'll take out the Iranian news agency, right? And they've done that because what you're doing, you're getting rid of the mouthpiece of the Iranian authorities, right? That I'm not discussing whether that's right or wrong. However, in the Roman era, if you go to the places that are producing the coins, right, you can then start to control the narrative, because coins themselves issue the narrative. and we've already said this, the reason why coins are being issued in the Roman Empire is not just for trade, credit and commerce, is to tell you who actually is ruling over you. Now, we'll just we'll look at this a minute. We'll go back to that little bit of notes. I've got a guy who comes and visits me, who buys eggs off me, called Bill, right? And we have a little bit of a joke on a regular basis. He comes to buy eggs, £3 for 6 eggs, right? And he says, I've only ever had £1 coin with the head of King Charles, right? And I'm thinking, why is that? We're always having a conversation. Why is it the only coin, your only coin that you've ever had in the reign of King Charles? Obviously, good old Queen Elizabeth has been gone since September 2022, hasn't she? Right. So if you want to think about telling the world that you are King Charles and you are now the new king, he's failed. He's failed. But Conobolinus hasn't failed, and the Romans haven't failed when they capture Verulamium and when they capture Camalodunum, because what they're doing, they're getting the heart, they're cutting the head off of the mouthpiece, and the mouthpiece of these coins. And that's really, really important. You've got to remember that when you're thinking of them. Coins in the Roman period are massive, and people in Britain had learnt that coins were massive to their projection of their identity. People in Britain who wanted to conquer the tribes, hence why we've got that King of the Britons. The Cativalani were in effect the most important tribal people in Britain by producing hundreds of thousands of coins and spreading them across Britain, right? Millions of coins across Britain with the name of the Cativalani people, the name of Conobolinus, the name of Craticus, right? What you're doing, you're saying that we have arrived. We are your rulers. And they have learnt that from the Roman world. Because coins, as I keep saying, are not just the gesticulation of credit and commerce. They are the projection of your identity, and something that we're looking at. And the other thing as well is, I have said this so many times, when we've looked at Julius Caesar, when we've looked at Caligula, now we're looking at Claudius, we've looked at Augustus a little bit, we've looked at Tiberius, right? All the representations on those coins are now being bastardized by the leaders of Britain. Winged busts, sphinxes, equestrian figures, and equestrian bodies like horses. But what we're doing, right, we're using the horse upon us, and we're saying, this is our standard. This is what we've seen representing us for 1,000 years, right? So when we go to this coin of Conobolinus, right, that horse, that prancing horse, is not just a Roman representation of a prancing horse in the Cativalani landscape, right? This horse is a horse that's always been in the British landscape. All the Cativalani have done is just taken an embodied, emboldened representation of a Roman horse, and they've chucked it on their own coins, and they said, actually, we love horses ourselves. Our projection and an overall being and the meaning of the horse is something that has been important to us as much as it may be important to Rome. This is who we are. We have landed. We have landed on the map of history. So, oh God, this is wearing me out. I'm gonna have a can of Lucozade in a minute. But the other thing as well is when we think about this, we think about these coins themselves are gold. They're silver coins, right? And me and Andy have had a massive gesticulation of this, and we've not been able to work it out at all, right? But the people are using the most gold coins in Britain are people so far away from gold in Britain, right? Like the Iceni people, like the Cativalani people, like the Trinovantes. The gold itself either comes from Scotland, Ireland, or Wales, or from the continent, right? It does not come from Norfolk. So what you're doing, you're grabbing the gold, you're grabbing the power, you're grabbing the silver, you're grabbing these resources into the hub of Britain, right? And this is what the British people are doing. And this is what Rome is seeing as well. what Rome needs to do, they need to hit the heart of this powerful people, right? Who are almost as if waggling and saying, "Hang on a minute, boys, come over here, boys. We are ready for you," right? And this is what all this is about. It's very likely that the peoples of Britain thought that Rome was never going to arrive. I would have thought that. If I was going to guess, Rome's never going to arrive. Why would Rome ever want to come over here for? They're getting a good thing out of it. Do you know? I used to, maybe this was a talk that Roger remembered 2 decades ago when he was coming along to my classes. Right? It's not 2 decades ago, Roger. It's sort of like 14 years ago or something like that. But I may have said the reason why the Romans came to Britain was because of the resources that were in Britain, right? I don't think that's true anymore. I think the Romans came over to Britain for more than it was part of grabbing this weird, unusual, queer thing into the Roman world. And it's not just about the resources, and because when you look at the resources that are applicable to Britain, it's not enough to keep them paying taxes into the Roman exchequer, right? Because after a time, the gold that's going into the Roman exchequer from Britain and the lead and silver isn't justifiably enough to keep the Roman Empire in Britain. So what else are they doing here? And over the many months that we're going to be doing Rome, some of those answers will be there, and some of those answers will completely not be there, right? So looking at Karl-james again, massive gold and silver issues, strong Roman iconography, but we've explained why that is, and then we're talking about these coins are then going to gesticulate an exchange with coins in Europe, right? So there's a movement of these types of coins over to Europe. And in a way, the British are actually saying, we're going to conquer you. Can you see that? Because that mindset works. Because if you're spreading these coins over to Europe, right, and you're saying, we are the Cativalani people, I'm Karl-james, and then his son Caraticus has got the same idea. You can see by the time of AD 43, there's a political conquest. The Britons have, this sounds so mad, but it's not. The Britons have conquered Gaul, right, with their coins and their trade and their thoughts and their ideas, and saying we're better than you. And the Romans are doing the same thing. That's one thing you don't hear historians talk about, but I can say that as an archaeologist because that's what I'm saying. Right, you don't want your stuff going over to places giving a message if you don't mean to do it. You do mean to do it. And there is a wheat sheaf there, and we've always had the idea of the wheat sheaf projecting on our coins. And remember, right, these are actually minted coins. These are produced with a dye, with a really nice cut iron dye, right? So you got two dyes. These are hammered. These are hammered coins. So you might use a dye 10,000 times. So you've got millions of these coins in circulation, and there are millions of them, right? Because there's so many being found. And if there's so many being found, you need to make the calculation, right? So many of these have been melted down since, right? The ones that we find are the ones that have been lost, right? Whether they're in hoards or whether you get one down the back of the sofa, this is what's left. And even it goes back to this. If somebody turned around and said, I don't know what true figures of this, Margaret, maybe you could look this up, right? How many old penny coins were ever produced in the history of Britain, right? The old penny, right? But how many actually now survive? Only a very small proportion of them. But there used to be loads of them around. So the point is that all we've got now left in history is a small proportion, but we've got a lot of these things surviving, and they speak the time of what they wanted to tell us. Now, so if we go back to the history and we think, right, hang on, Carl, you've broken a couple of the rules tonight. You've basically said Karl-james was born in, well, no, he wasn't born. Because he was born, what am I on about? Karl-james reigned from AD 9 to AD 40, right? So we know there's an end date, because we know from the coin evidence somewhere around AD 40 he died, and simply we know he died because there's another guy in the park issuing coins, and it's Karaticus and Togodumnus. But there, hang on a minute, this is there's Karaticus coin, right? But before we go on to the Karaticus coin, right, and there's another point here, right? There's a question coming up, right? Nobody needs to look this up. Karaticus, right, post Conobolinus, right, whatever their relationship with Conobolinus is, right, you can work it out yourself. You can do the history. We're doing archaeology. Whatever their relation, I know the answer. Whatever their relationship with Conobolinus is, right, you've got coins of Karaticus, right, but there's no coins of Togodumnus. So you've got these two brothers who are in control of the territory. One issues coins, the other one doesn't. Why doesn't the other one issue coins? And these two are not warring brothers. These are fighting alongside each other, according to what history says. So Karaticus, so this guy Karaticus is taken over. Now, what we've got Khalifa Atrabatum is going to be the throne room, the throne place, the place of the light of Karaticus. Togodumnus is at St. Albans, right? So why isn't Togodumnus issuing his own coins? Really strange. Togodumnus is thinking differently from Karaticus, right? Very differently. But these two people are against Rome. They don't like the idea of Rome. Unlike Minius that we looked at last week, he's somebody who's kicked out of the Catavalina territory. He's the one who goes over to the likes of Caligula, and we see his coins, right? He's basically saying, look, my French, up yours. I'm still producing these coins, right? I'm still saying to the world, I exist. So again, I'm loving this gold thing, right? Because it's gold. Gold by this stage is the superior value of the Iron Age and the Roman period. There's one thing that the Romans and the British have got in common: gold, right? They're obsessed by it. But I keep saying to this, and I will go to my grave with this, and you can put an iron torque around my neck. Start getting one. Start getting one made up, Margaret, so you can put an iron torque around my neck when I die, right? I talk about the iron torque. I talk about, say, maybe back about 2,500 years ago, iron was more valuable than gold, because to produce something made of iron was extremely difficult. But by this period, they've managed to get control of the heating, the levels of producing iron objects. So you can just think you can mass produce iron. But then again, there's a lot of gold as well. There's a lot of gold about, right? So whoever's they're getting the gold from, wherever they're getting the gold from, it's what they're giving to those people for the gold is far more valuable to them than the gold value to them. So what I'm saying is, if people of the Catavalani are trading, say, with Ireland iron, right, or trading with Wales iron, those people in Ireland and Wales must have a lot of gold to be able to dispense of it to these people who value gold. That's the point, and that's the register of understanding where we are. Again, one of the things that we can see, and one of the things that we can see in history, gold is not necessarily a state of wealth, right? So what do I mean by that? So when you look at, for example, the Inca world, you look at Cusco, you look at Pizarro, you look at, as Pizarro is conquering the Inca world, we see that there's gold everywhere because the Inca have got so much gold. But they don't have any iron. The Inca value iron more than they value gold. So when we look at the Minoan people, gold itself, it seemingly doesn't have a very high value to the Minoans, as other civilizations see gold, like this civilization and ancient Rome. So again, Silchester, again, this coin is an indication of what Count Craticus wants for the Catavilani people. These coins need to circulate as far as they can to say the Catavilani are coming. And what did the Romans do with their coins? The Romans are coming. Claudius is coming. So let's chuck over to Britain a load of these coins. So there's two people doing exactly the same things with the same aims. One side loses, the other side wins. That's not always as black and white as it sounds, right? So look at that. So I think we've had this discussion before, and it may have been Drina or Margaret. I think when we were looking at these types of coins, these sort of these late coins, these late Iron Age coins, I think we had that discussion, and I think we saw a coin of Admidius last week, and no, it wasn't Admidius. It was his predecessor, wasn't it? We saw a coin last week, and that coin doesn't. It looks like a Roman head, but it hasn't got the laurels, and the coin itself looks like somebody who is somebody. That was a strange thing that came up on the screen. Somebody who actually looks like they could be native Britain. That figure there looks like somebody who could actually look like Caraticus. You know, Caraticus may have descended from Cassivellaunus, a commander of the British coalition against Caesar in 54 BC. So you're looking at a really interesting representation on this coin, for example, a silver coin. And did these people in Britain look like this? Maybe they did. Maybe this is actually the best that you're going to see of a portrait. Long nose, nice chubby cheeks, the ideal man for Drina, right? But again, this is the best that we're going to get to a portrait. This is the best that we're going to get with what they feel, their story. Because again, that horse there, that body on the horse, that wheat chief there, as we've seen, the emboldened embodiment of Conobolinus, right? Maybe Conobolinus did actually look like that. Maybe his hair wasn't like that. Maybe heavy eyebrows. Yep, lots of British people do have heavy eyebrows, right? But this is what's telling you of what's important to these people, right? They're not showing a hammer and a sickle or anything. That they're saying mining's important to them. Wheat's important to them. The horse is important to them. Being in the modern world is important to them. Giving a message which is more powerful than the other guy is important, because if I go down to another level, and I think maybe we'll have a break in a minute. If we go down to another level, and if we go to that other map again, let's just sort of bring this one in, right? So if we go to the outliers, for example, let's go the Brigantes of Cumbria there. And there is another tribal name for your area as well, but I'm not on tribal names and stuff today. But the point is, you're thinking, well, where are the Brigantine coins that are telling the world about the Brigantes? They're not there. Where are the Parisi coins that are telling you about the Parisi people? They're not there, because they had a different way of thinking about their sense of, my God, here we go, Britishness, right? The Brigantes' sense of Britishness was different from the sense of the Britishness of people in West Wales. The sense of Britishness, when we look at the Damnonii people had access to gold, they had access to silver, they had access to copper, they had access to lead, right? But they didn't produce coins. Why is that? That's really weird. So, and also the people of West Wales, they're not producing coins, but they're mining the gold. I can never gungle this out, right? Nowhere, you're not going to find an answer on that. Well, maybe you can, but it's something. Will, what we did when we were looking at these coin things, I can remember we just said, well, where you're finding coins, right, where you're finding the most proudest coins like this of gold, right, and when you're finding silver coins, right, you're not finding these in areas that mine this stuff, because the gold, there's no gold in Norfolk, but you've got all these gold coins, and you're just thinking, well, this is really strange. And the other thing as well is, which is also another queer thing, right? Why aren't we seeing iron coins, right? And that's in, you know, you can come up with loads of different reasons why we don't see iron coins. We can find iron bars for trade. Julius Caesar mentioned about iron bars, and he mentioned about iron trading. We've done that. I know we did that. But the point is that there's certain things that I would say are important, but you don't see it in history. There are other cultures on the planet who did have iron coins, right? And I'm pretty sure I'm really 100% sure that the Chinese had iron coins, right? But we don't have iron coins. Double check me on that one. One of you can check that in the break. But why don't we have iron coins? These people didn't have iron coins. I think it'd be perfectly acceptable to have iron coins, right? So Caraticus' brother Togodumnus died fighting the Romans in AD 43. Gold, quarter stater, from Bedfordshire. And there you go. These, if you find one of these under your bed, Roger, just, you don't need women anymore. You could just live a high life and just live on your coins. But anyway, another Caraticus coin, but again, no coins of his brother Togodumnus. How do we know about Togodumnus' existence? We've got historians writing about Togodumnus, right? And then, and when I hear the name Caraticus, I loathe it, because it's been overplayed. And we've already done Caraticus. We've already mentioned him. We've already mentioned him being dragged in chains in front of the Forum of Rome, and he was poisoned and all that stuff. But that's told to us by historians. But we know, right, let's go with the archaeology. Caraticus did exist because we got coins telling us about him. That's it. What about Togodumnus? That can go out the window for today, and it can stay there. But historians say that he had another brother, right? So anyway, right, I know one of you is going to answer the question about iron coins with square holes from China, which I've got them in my head from about 200 AD 200. But you can correct me on that, right? But what we're going to do, we're going to go on to our break, right? So we've got a few things to look at after the break, and sort of, oh yeah, and we've got to come back to that image, which is linked with that image, right? And we're going to look at some more of these maps. So there wasn't too many images today because I didn't really want them, but let's just crack on. So let's just lather ourselves and have a little bit of a chat. So let's see where we are. So it's now 8:21, and what we might do is refer to Romans in South Wales after the break as well. I'm sure one of you will be able to correct me on the Chinese iron coins. Please do. I'm sure you have, Margaret.
No,
I tell you what, let's ask David. David, have you got anything you'd like to say?
No, thank you.
Are you staying with us for a bit longer, Dave?
No, thank you.
And Dave, can I ask you one thing? Did you want me to do a little bit of an early start if you want to join us earlier
Oh,
for a
no.
chat? Okay,
No,
that's
no,
fine.
don't bother. Thank you.
Okay, David. Okay, well, we'll see you next week, David.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dave. No. Do you know, I just feel David feels a bit awkward sometimes, and yeah, I just I want to include him a little bit more, but I don't know how to, but that's life. Right, okay, Margaret, anything you'd like to say, doll?
Well, these coins, it seems they were mostly for propaganda purposes.
I think, oh, right, can we just take that 2 points there? Just take those and hang them there, right? So if we, let's use that to explain Roman coins, right? Yes, forget about the Iron Age stuff. The Roman coins were there for propaganda. They were there for propaganda. They told us about who was in power. what is exactly going on at that moment, right? The coins tell a story, right? And if you then move that to Britain and say that's the exact thing, then you've got to look at credit and commerce, right? So if you look at, when you look at Britain, we've got all these gold coins, and this is going to be looking, the Romans are going to be looking at this and saying, my God, they've got all these gold coins. And the British want us to know that they've got all these gold coins. It's almost as if the British want to be invaded, because they're deliberately doing this. It's very much propaganda. It's very much, we don't really want you, but use all the gold and come on over, boys, and see what you can do. This is what it looks like. Is that your point? But then we've got to look at the fact that there is some commercial value in this. There's no point making, right, okay, there's two bits here. To get hold of the gold, you need to trade with people over there, right? So these objects have got value. They've been traded to give them value. It wouldn't be the same if gold was mined in vast amounts in Norfolk, right? Because it'd have no value, right? So therefore you can just do that, and therefore it'd have no monetary value either. So when you're thinking about it, when you've got these gold coins in vast quantities across this landscape, and there's another point there as well, they do come into the flows of a monetary circulation. But there's something else as well, which is quite odd on the extreme. When you're looking at the landscape of Bronze Age, Iron Age Britain, where and particularly the Iron Age, where you eventually find loads of gold talks, right? You know, in Britain, right? If I said in Britain we found tens of thousands of gold talks, how have they survived from the Iron Age into a period when they're melting down things to create these coins? How have they survived? So you're thinking about, why have these things survived in the ground? For surely if people in the later Iron Age would have known where these burial places were and dug their ancestors up to melt these coins down to create money, you know. So there's all these questions that are flipping out there, you know, are just bounding in our minds. Go for it, Margaret.
Well, I just read, and I'm afraid I'm going to the written word here.
You Bowen Ching.
When we talk about trade, we talk about trading with the Romans or whoever we're trading with, and trading goods, this for that. Nowhere is it ever mentioned that we pay anybody for something. It's always an exchange of goods rather than paying for things with coins.
There is one interesting thing about this. The guy who comes to the gate once a week to buy eggs from me, right? He gives me £3, right? But it was yesterday. He said, "Oh, I'll go in the co-op to get you some donuts," right? Which I'm not allowed. So he got me some donuts. So he came to the gate with a pack of donuts, an empty egg box with £3. And I said, "Aren't you going to take the?" He said, "Oh no, it's a gift," right? But I'm actually finding, right? Can we think of? I'm actually finding now more than anything, right, that that bartering is a lot more powerful than paying for things in money, right? For example, there's this hairdresser I go to. I give him a book every time he cuts my hair. And it feels a lot better because he's getting more value from the book than he would if I gave him 10 quid or whatever, right? So there's something about bartering that is more powerful than using money. Money's a bit cheap. And yet it is.
Well, the value would have been in the metal. The value would have been in the gold and the silver. But the rest of it, the images on the coins were just propaganda, weren't they?
Or if we look at it the other way, is the value actually in the image of the person on the coin? Because if you want to look at the let's look at this silly thing, right? Oh, I remember it was like it was just before the pandemic. I'll turn up to my classes and say, I've got a rare 50p piece. I've got a rare £1, right? And they get all excited and look through their bags and oh, we haven't got any of these coins, and they weren't rare at all. But there is this phenomenon in modern society. You can get a pound coin that's worth 50 quid, right?
Yeah.
And that in itself tells another story, because the value might be also in the person who's on the coin, right? Not just the value of the coin per se. But back to the King Charles coin, right? He's got this he wouldn't give me that King Charles coin. He values that King Charles coin because he might never ever get another one, right? Even though it's worth £1, that King Charles coin is only worth £1, but he values it, right? And it's part of his £1 collection of King Charles coins of one single. I don't know, but
maybe they were collector's items even back then.
Oh, don't get me started. Guess what? Julius Caesar is known as the world's second numismatist, right?
Ooh.
He was the first. Apparently, he was the second world. Right, there was somebody in antiquity who also kept coins, right? Another leader.
Sorry, there's the food down there, but he didn't seem to want it.
Yeah,
It's just that I'm just at the question and ant talking bit, so I can't really get away, I'm afraid.
No, you can't, Andy.
No, you can't, Andy. We heard all that. Anyway,
Sorry.
Look, the point is that there's another leader in antiquity that kept coins, but Julius Caesar kept coins. Do you know what? I know we're talking in a historical sense, but Julius Caesar kept old coins. Now, you're thinking, hang on a minute, 50, well, okay, just before the Ides of March, 45 BC, right? So he's got this collection of coins, which are ancient coins, and you're thinking, my God, wow, that's really impressive. And so I think it's more of the when you look at coins, you should look at them more in a multiple facet. So what we do in archaeology, we say, okay, that Roman denarii, that silver Roman denarii that was buried with that Roman soldier, right, is that's his day's wages, right? However, the point is that silver, as the Roman Empire started to decay, and there's less and less silver and gold coinage in circulation in the late 200s. By the reign of Diocletian, the gold, there is gold value put into coins, blah blah blah. This happened with lots of societies, but that soldier's got a purse of silver coins, but his mate down the road has got a wheelbarrow full of worthless grotty coins, right? Where he's got paid, right? But this guy got paid in silver, and it's very special that he's been paid in silver, right? Even though it's the same value as the wheelbarrow full of whatever. When you think about it's what you see the value of the coin is, not what the actual value of the coin is. That's what I'm saying. It's what you see the value. It's what that coinage means to. It's what that coinage means to you when you accept it, rather than the actual real value. So say for example, I didn't really tell you the full story about this banknote, right? But this Saddam Hussein banknote, right, is my security for something, right? So that's got a lot of value. But I tell you what, that's not worth 5 pence on the open market in Iraq. But for me, that's very valuable. So I don't think we should be always looking at monetary value. I don't think we should always be looking at propaganda. I think we should be looking at what it means for that individual to have that which they see the eye of the beholder. Because there's one point, if you go looking around Roman sites, the Iron Age village Roman site in Anglesey, right, where you've got all these nice roundhouse type thingamajigs on Anglesey. I don't know if Roger was on that trip, but you're not expecting to find many gold coins there from the Roman period, right? You're not going to find many coins at all, because they're not really, they don't really need coins, right? Because they've already got their own economy. So certain people need coins, other people don't. But for example, when you start to think about towns and cities, right? somewhere like Caliva or Aptrobatum, something like Duropolis in Dorset, somewhere like Verulamium and Camalendunum and Cantae. We haven't mentioned that really tonight. The city of the Cantae people, which eventually become Canterbury, with some really nice Roman stuff there, but there's lots of good Iron Age stuff there. They need circulation coins, but somebody in Cumbria doesn't. So, and also, if those who have got the copy of Romans in South Wales with them today, we, for example, look at on page 60, when the Roman empires decided to reconstitute the value of coins, because coins don't always keep the same value throughout the Roman Empire, right? And these things didn't keep the same value. It's as the production of coins moves into different avenues, they've got different values. That's happened throughout society. For example, we're gonna have to crack on to everybody else, Margaret, in a minute. But back in the reign of King James I, who was the king that took over from Elizabeth I, roughly around 1620-ish, before King Charles I. In the reign of James I, the value in coins disappears, right? So what people would do, they would get a bronze coin, right? And they oh no, that's right, they'd get a tin coin, because there were tin coins in circulation, right? There wasn't much silver around, but what they would do, they would cut a little bit out of the tin coin and put a bit of copper in there, which would give the value to the tin coin. So you got little windows in, you find little tin coins, right, with a hole in them, because originally in that hole was a piece of copper. So people started to learn to actually have value in coins. You put copper in them, right? So people did this to give coins value, not the state. So coins have so many different identities and projections of meaning over time. It's not just the monetary and circulation value, which we've identified, Margaret. If there's nothing else, Margaret, we'll ask Drina, who's gone out of the room.
No, I'm here.
He's there.
I'm here.
Oh my God, it looks like a bloody hedgehog.
Thank you very much. No, I haven't got anything to say. Thank you.
Right, good. Roger, Dirty Rog. I just think Roger's been strapped to the bed and he's being whipped by some strange woman. Will.
Right. Coins are a medium of exchange. They always have been for 2,000 years. So let's go to the
hang on, Will. Right, we're not denying that, but all the other opulent examples of what coins have been about, that's what we're putting onto it. So go for it.
I acknowledge that the identity of the reigning monarch is an important factor for the last 2,000 years, from early Romans into the British era, into the after the Iron Age and into the Roman period. All right. Coinage was used to pay the tribute to Rome. So let's accept that when Julius Caesar conquered, he took hostages and Britons were obliged to pay tribute so that the Romans wouldn't come back into the country and slaughter the people. They had pursers, they had tradesmen, they had the merchantmen who collected the grain, who shipped the goods to Rome that Rome wanted. But over and above that, the tribute was also paid in coinage. So your gold and your silver would have been paid to Rome. Now, the fact that the tribes, and let's put Colonel Blindness in the fact that he's acknowledged as the chief of the largest tribe and the most powerful tribe in Britain, below the Cumbrian border, perhaps, and the fact that he established his priority. So the coinage that he put in place, because there was no military active presence in Britain, which came later after Claudius, there was a lower military level of occupation in Britain, but not. It was more of a merchant trade relationship. So you look at the fact that Colonel Blindness said, yeah, here's my coinage. The horse, because like the Iceni or the Iceni, the horse people, the horse was important. The wheat was important because we talk about the Evesham being the basket of Britain as far as producing goods is concerned, producing food. But if you think of the medium of trade, first of all, and the Chinese, in fact, I looked it up,
Keep talking.
200 million coinage in 1 year of various coins, and again, different metals from silver, gold, bronze, tin, iron. There was a whole range of them. We got rid of the idea of putting holes in coins, but the Chinese used to carry their coins on a staff which measured exactly how many coins it took. And when you had a medium of coins, and I was in banking for 22 years, and I did something back in the 70s in terms of research. I also had a coin collection of about 4,000 coins, which I
Oh,
sold,
you didn't.
before I came back to Canada.
Right.
Unfortunately, I've still got a couple of hundred of various denominations, but nothing old that goes back, mostly modern stuff. But the point being, the Chinese had it down to a fine art, where they put holes in the coins where you could carry the coins, put them on string. You didn't have to have a purse or a wallet. Not necessarily culturally the thing that you carried a purse or what. Tradesman, you could look and say, right, there's 5 of those coins, and you zip them off, and that's your 5 coins. But
Carry on.
the use of the exchange, and this is the point, is when there was a common route of exchange. In fact, a sheep cost five certain coins, and the government legislated one sheep cost 5 certain coins. You couldn't charge 6. Okay, bartering said, right, you could say to the guy, you want to pay 6 coins, and the guy next to you want to pay 7 coins, or the guy next to you want to pay 8 coins. Well, the guy who was doing the job that needed the sheep for 5 coins was more important to the government than the guy who was prepared to pay 7 coins. So by setting a standard for the trading of the materials coinage, they also provided a standard to say you could set the price of goods in the marketplace, and you controlled wealth by setting the price of goods in the marketplace. And that's been the same for 3,000 years. We can talk about
But
oil prices.
but that might be right. I'm not going to disagree with that, but what I'm saying is that the nature of these coins that we've got is extremely more complex than you've said, because they are projected more than just the economic value. They're projected everything else that we've said, and the one problem is that what we're up against in Britain is that there's so many tribes that didn't have coins, and there's so many these coins of that are produced by the Catalani people and the Cantai people and the Trinavantes and so on, are part of the network of complex realities that these coins actually broadcast to the world. And we'll look a little bit more about that in a short while. Well, I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but in the context that you've said, that's in the modern day and age and all the rest of it, that's really good over the years. But we're talking about something very different, more powerful in the this period that we're talking about. Anyway, thank you for that, Will. Really appreciate that. Anything you want to say? Oh, Gina, I was just going to go to Judith quickly, and we're going to.
It occurred to me that the Roman soldiers wouldn't have anything to barter; they'd have to use coin.
And the one thing about that is that the Romans themselves naturally had to pay for kit. They had to maintain kit, and they would have been a service that they could have sent money home and all the rest of it. So all of these things, and the point that you're making, this is a really interesting point, right? It's always portrayed, even in my own book, it's always portrayed that the Roman soldier would be paid on a regular basis. But if you're in a battle situation, the last thing you want to do is carry a load of coins around with you, right? They would be cumbersome. You wouldn't be able to use them for anything in Britain whilst you're here, because there's nothing set up. So that is a really valuable point that you've just made.
Well, they did employ accountants, the Romans, and they were quite meticulous about how and when they paid their legionaries, and they did actually take them to the battleground, the money, and keep them in safe places, heavily guarded. But they were quite meticulous with their accounting.
They were very meticulous. They were very, very meticulous. But when you're in the middle of a campaign and you're trying to conquer a people, having all this money being carried around is just not going to make much sense. And I can sort of see where Drina's going with that. Is that what you meant, Drina?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Right. Thank you. A bit more. Judith, anything you want to say?
No, nothing, thank you. I'm just listening. I'm trying to formulate a thing in my head, but it won't. Don't know.
A Bélanger la route along Le Plan Esquire in your head. That's
Yeah.
not a problem.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's really not a problem. Can I just say one thing, right? Can I just say one thing? In my book on page 19, right, it's got Roman governors and native resistance. Well, there's a chart there that says consul governorship of Britannia awarded to dates of rule. So we go from Aulus Plautius all the way down to Gnaeus Julius Agricola, right? And this is from AD 43 all the way to AD 85. And there's 11 governors. But then slowly but surely, the history of these governors and who's actually governing Britain starts to get less and less clear, right? And the point I'm trying to make is that in the early part of the history of Roman era Britain, I was thinking about this the other day, in the earlier part of the history of Roman era Britain, you've got a lot of thinking that we're knowing what's going on. And then when you get to AD 100, AD 200, things get more and more blurred. It's almost as if things get more and more blurred in Roman era Britain as time goes on, right? And my light's just gone out as well. So what we're going to do, we're gonna have a break now.
We have now Sandy, and he knows everything about coins.
Oh, balls to Andy! Andy, anything you want to say? Andy, I just wanted to have my can of Lucasade without Anne moaning that I'm drinking something that's not good for me. And lo and behold, it's Andy's turn. How dare you, Margaret? Andy, go for it.
No, calm down, Carl. Be good.
Shut up, Rog.
Right, I haven't said much yet. I'm going to make up for it.
Couple of things.
What?
You've covered most of it, or one of them already. In that it's a very difficult concept for us to get away from our understanding of money.
Yes.
And coinage today.
And that's my point with Will. That was my point with Will. What Will was saying was correct.
Absolutely, because that only works with people who have a value of that money. So when you get outside of that, it doesn't work. So, and the other thing was what was the other thing? There was something else I wanted. Oh,
tell me what the other thing is. I'm going to let the cat out while you do it.
Absolutely. Iron coinage. Well, iron coinage, I didn't find so much about iron coinage, but iron currency, definitely. Julius Caesar even refers to the Britons having an iron currency.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yes.
So, which is I don't really. I think we came across them not that long ago in the Iron Age.
Bars,
iron
those
bars.
bars, yeah.
There were triangular
really
bars. There were slightly curved bars for different tribes.
So I think when again it's getting away from this concept of money in your pocket as being currency. Currency is an exchange thing, as Will was saying. So that iron bars, why not? Could be footballs, anything. It's whatever's convenient, isn't it, to carry? So
yeah. I just read that Julius Caesar in his will left loads of gold to Brutus, who stuck the knife in, didn't he?
Well,
Too Brute.
Yeah.
Oh, Brute, exactly.
It left him loads of gold in his will.
Oh.
I bet he regretted that.
I bet he did. He'll be turning in
how
his
can
grave.
you regret it? He was dead, you silly man.
Yeah, haunting. I feel a haunting coming on.
Yeah.
It's just like saying, you won't find it funny when you're lying dead.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Why not?
Oh dear.
Spirit's still around, so right.
Do you know we got? Hey, do you know? I was asking Bill, right? Because he's a man of the cloth, right? And I said, have you heard? There's this comedian, right? She said to this historian, she said, how many three old wise men were there? And apparently there was 4. And it's not a stupid question at all. It's like, how many 3 old? And the historian said, oh yeah, there were 4 of them. And it's like, oh, I was actually only joking, but it's like a really sensible question. Oh God.
Yeah.
I don't even know how we got on with that, but the point is, and that ties in with this whole thing. Our sense of reality now is completely different to the sense of reality there, and our concepts. And for example, I've got banknotes in the back of my phone, and I can't remember the last time that I actually spent money in a shop, right? And I just don't use money. I just don't use it. And
who's on the back of a £10 note?
What's that?
Who's on the back of a £10 note?
I don't know now.
No, I don't.
I got a £5 a year. Who's on the back of the £5?
Who's on the back of a £5 note?
Winston Churchill.
That was how it worked.
I mean, now it's scientists, it's authors, it's
Gandhi,
it's writers.
the Archbishop of Canterbury, Desmond Tutu.
Turner's on a 20.
Oh, have we got Turner?
He's Turner. He's
Jane
showing
Austen, isn't it? Isn't it Jane Austen?
Yeah, there he is. Turner.
Jane
on
Austen.
20.
She's a very naughty
Who's
boy.
on
If
the-
somebody comes up with a £50 note, I'm going to swindle them.
Yeah.
Alan Turing.
Aaron Turing.
Alan
How do you know?
Turing. That's Elizabeth.
Open
Who's
to be
on the
wrong.
back of Elizabeth?
I got a £25 note.
I used to have a 9-bob note.
I used to have a rubber one.
Oh, it's lovely.
Right, Roger. I got to have a break. Anything you want to say, love?
Yes, one thing that fascinates me with all
Please
of this,
do,
is
darling. Please do.
if we could ever find out, is how the Romans got to understand the languages of the Britons, although they were visiting here and there. When you think of it, you can get a whole list of words. This is the word for jug, cup, bottle. But when you come to linking it with verbs and all the rest of it to make sense, if that would be this complicated sentences, it strikes me that probably the languages used were simple, very simple, like in the old films and westerns with the Native Americans. Hey, wada, wuda, wuda, this basic jumping around with words. But nothing has ever been said about scribes. And very often the monks and people would delve into this type of thing because they could write it down as well. But it'd be fascinating to see how they tackled it, because when you think of it, most of the troops going over would have a hope in hell of what the others were talking about. So keeping a security was going to be difficult. You think, are they plotting something or just talking about tonight's meal? You know what I mean? It's never been discussed. But it's a fascinating thing how languages are ever cracked when you go to a new country.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's a heck of a job to actually get the full flow of languages, not just nouns.
And that, yes, if you finish there, Rog. And that's why when we're talking about these coins, the coins echo more than not being able to understand the value of what somebody's saying. It's a gold coin.
Coins made, as well.
It's a gold coin. There's a design on it. What does this say? And you just think, well, some actual native British coins, which we've already done in a lecture, were far superior to some of the Roman stuff. We've already done that. We showed you some examples, right?
Well made, yeah.
And you're just thinking, well, what does that say? Look at the image of our leader compared to the fairy-like image of your leader on your coin, right? Yeah. All of these things are a type of language. They do say a language, right? And what Will said about he's got a coin collection. My coin collection is bigger than yours. Yes, it was, Will, but The point is that you are imparting some information by having these coins, and going back to the final thing, we'll have a break after this. Let's go down a conspiracy theory, right? There are so few King Charles coins around. Why? This is a new king. All of our banknotes, it seems that all of our banknotes, all of our money is still got the cipher of Queen Elizabeth II on it. And that's been unprecedented in British history. And it's weird.
Well, he's not been well, has he?
No, he
Yeah,
hasn't been
no.
well. And he's been riding a one-legged donkey and nearly fell over the other day.
Yeah.
And
it's
whatever you
difficult
do,
to say what I
whatever
would-
you do, Will, right? I thought, me going along to the other class on a Wednesday, I talked about a one-legged donkey sanctuary in Spain, right? As a joke, right? And Anne turned out to find the one-legged donkey sanctuary in Spain with 9 donkeys. She gives them £20 a month as a donation to keep this donkey. Anyway, it's true.
Three-legged donkey, not a one-legged donkey.
Well, I don't know. She found it. It's called the One-Legged Donkey Sanctuary of Spain, and Anne pays a £20 donation every month.
They'll probably they've lost a leg.
I don't know. I have seen dogs wandering around on a trolley with one leg.
Oh, yeah.
Dogs wandering around with their back end of the carriage because the back leg.
Right, can we have a break now? Right, guys? We're
Yeah.
having a break. It's 8:54. We'll be back at 5 minutes past 9. And your knickers on the line.
And early on.
Not Judith. Let's have a break.
Hmm. Right. How are things, Anne? You been busy?
Were you talking to me, Rog?
Yes. Oh, I thought you were busy tonight, perhaps in the rescue business. Or
Oh no. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was very busy, and all of a sudden, it's been a very strange year. I think we've had about 5 or 6 call outs, which is by this time last year we'd had 15, 20.
Yeah.
It's very strange, and they all come, so they
What's
come in
common-
fits and bounds. Yeah.
Is there one that's a common cause of people getting stranded with the tide or falling down?
No, they vary. I mean, we had basically 3 incidents in one day a couple of weeks ago where somebody was getting cut off by the tide as it was coming in, and they went out to them and they managed to attract their attention and get them to come ashore in the right direction. So that was all. Then they found another one who was about to get cut off as well, and then as they were coming back, they then got called to another person that had fallen off the cliff and broken the leg, so they had to be helicoptered out. So
Yeah.
and it's like all in one day, and it's like one after another. It's like
Wow.
it's strange. So
And very thankful for you being there.
yeah, I mean, the commonest one is the tide cutting people off. They go out walking on the sands and don't realize it's come round behind them.
Oh, it can be deadly with everything.
Yeah.
Nature wins, and you just got to take nature as she is. You can't assume it looks nice, so it's got to be, and then you hit quicksand or something. Or tide. You don't stop
Fortunately,
to see.
the quicksand is very rare, so it's people that get stuck often just get stuck in the mud, which is, to be honest, is their own stupid fault, because you can see that.
We got here, they're very muddy.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
Never tried it, but I've heard about where I've heard of people getting stuck with it. It's a sticky sort of deep mud off the River Severn.
Yeah,
a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah,
you got various boatmen up and down and fishermen who know the tides.
Yeah,
it's you're just taken away, and in the mud if you try and get out.
Yeah,
just can't do it.
No.
But no, I admire people like yourselves who are there rescuing, because when I was in a charity shop or at Wales Air Ambulance,
yeah,
they were doing all sorts of things, and very often when there was a sort of something on the coast, they couldn't get close in.
Yeah.
The rotors and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So they call in the Coast Guard who have winches.
Yeah.
Might have used them because we didn't have them.
Yeah.
But winches on the big aircraft, helicopters, to
Yeah.
take people up out the way. And a friend of mine actually once got stuck. It was a pebble beach, a gate onto it, no sign of anything, a warning.
Yeah.
And he walked onto the beach with the dog ran off, fine, but he got stuck and
Yeah.
sank in the pedals.
Yeah.
Enough to hold him, and he couldn't really move because he get into more trouble. So
Yeah.
finally, he contacted police, I think, and they got through and had to call in a winch to get him out of there. But it was scary. You just don't see it. And there wasn't a notice there saying anything, which should have been. Well, somebody pinched it or something. Idiots.
Yeah, oh, we have signs up on at every point that people come in, but they just don't see them. They don't read them. They don't see them, and maybe they don't think it applies to them. I don't know. But,
have you got a particular point here near a place called Porthcawl?
Yeah.
Further down from the famous Barry and all this. Very popular spot, a lovely village, harbour and all that.
Yeah.
Good for the fun fairs and all sorts of things. Big caravan park, very popular
Yes.
all around the area in the Vale. And the strong tides there and all the rest of it, and the rocks, then comes sand and all the rest of it. Far down it gets quite rough. It says Rest Bay, but you get breakers there, and it can get pretty rough. Up the way of the main harbour, it's about half a mile down the coast of it. And with the way it is, it's just before there's a very popular little spot where they settle down on the headland, and there's a river coming out, the Ocho, and another stretch of sand. And very often people get stuck swimming there, even strong swimmers, because of rip tide coming in. And they're warned about it. And I would have thought the only way to swim there is when the tide's coming in, not out.
Yeah.
But some people think they're strong enough, but they can't battle the currents there.
No,
it's deadly. A few people told me I wasn't a swimmer, I wouldn't dare risk it. But some of them thought, I can swim across the bay, which you can in some places, nice little place.
Yeah.
But they're absolutely deadly, and they're swept out before you know.
Yeah.
And as you know, with the lifeboats, it's difficult seeing somebody bobbing up and down in the sea.
It is very difficult.
Somebody saw them go out. Where are they now? So very admire them all who do this rescue, because it's a tough one, a real tough one.
Yeah.
So how long have you been mixed up with it then?
18 years now, on and off.
18?
I did sort of about I think about 3 years when I was a teenager before I left the area, and then when I came back in 2010 and 2011, I joined up again.
You just got attracted by the helping people thing, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, kind of. It's fun as well, I mean, we have jet skis here as well, which is we're the only Coast Guard team in the country with a jet ski, and so that's pretty fun to get qualified on that and go out on that. You feel, because I'm like 65 now, and I'm thinking, I can't be bothered to do lots of things anymore like I used to. I used to go off and do all sorts of things, but I can't be bothered a lot of stuff. And you're thinking, I'm getting old. And but then I think, wait a minute, I still go out on a jet ski at 65, so that can't be that bad, So it's fun, and because I've been quite a while now, I get sort of to take charge of quite a lot of bigger events as well, and because we have the jet ski, we went to Eurovision in that, and patrolled the harbour in Liverpool when Eurovision was there a couple of years ago, and went up to Glasgow for COP26 and things, and they were at the tall ships up in Aberdeen last year as well. So I didn't go to that, unfortunately, but
have you got particularly strong tides just along the arms?
It is, it's because the tide goes round island on both sides and funnels into Morecambe Bay, and we're at the top end of Morecambe Bay,
right?
So it actually comes in quite fast. I forget, it's something like I think it's the 7th highest tidal range in the world. Like,
Wow.
you know, what is it? Isn't it the 7 is second, I think, isn't it?
Second, the
Yeah,
top one is Newfoundland, Nova Scotia.
yeah. But it is one of the faster ones. Because it's
Deadly.
you know, sort of like it gets into double figures on a big tide and knots,
Oh, dear.
which is for a short period, which is
And with
really
Morecambe
fast.
Bay, people have been stuck there. Is it very muddy?
Yeah, it's mud flats. So I mean, they're quite hard mud. The problem areas are where the streams come in around the edges, the freshwater streams. So you get it all around, and that's of course is where all the people go as well, because that's where they want to go in or play in it and things. So it's a natural combination. But the mud out in the bay is actually quite hard, so it's quite good.
Very interesting. As I was saying, nature always wins.
Oh
It's
yes.
a powerful force.
Don't mess with nature. Yeah.
I often watch these RNLI films, rescue.
Yeah,
It's
I
what
watched a
they
lot
do.
of those.
You look back in history of what they went out in rowing boats, basically big ones.
Yeah.
In the rough seas, I thought brave. It's not that. That's not the word.
Have you been to Whitby?
Yeah, and yes, a couple of times when I was up with friends in Scarborough, the coast there.
The museum, the RNLI museum there talks about I can't remember. It was in the late 1890s, I think it was. There was a bad storm, and there are pictures of lots of ships run up onto the beach because they all tried to run in and get away from the storm.
Yeah.
And as a result, the early morning of the storm, when it was subsiding, the lifeboat got called out 4 times, and on its 4th time out, and this is a great big heavy rowing boat. The 4th time out, it got washed away, and the only guy that survived, they all drowned apart from one young guy who was trying on this newfangled invention called a life jacket, and he was the only one that survived. But I don't know how they did that. I mean, you know, to go out into a sea in a rowing boat like that once, never mind 4 times, and they saved a load of people. You know, and you're thinking that is just heroic stuff. You know.
Well, it's difficult. I was in college in the rowing club.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of fun and competition with other places. But one day we went down to Swansea, near the harbour somewhere, and we said, "Oh, we'll try it and do a race with the uni there."
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. It was a bit choppy, but to get your blades in, because you're up and down, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Or the choppy stormy sea, it's a hell of a job. You try to key together, you know, with the bottom.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the waves just catch your blade, don't they? And just knock you off balance, and then everything's out of kilter. And you don't get the flow or rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got lightweight ones. Yeah. These are great big heavy things that they're using. They must have been.
Oh yeah, huge vessels. But that was really brave. Oh, dear, God, you know, you had a little chance of getting back in, but you might rescue somebody. Fantastic idea, but what a risk.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be brave enough for that.
No, I don't think I would either. I mean, you know,
no,
we are trained, we have equipment, and we go into environments where we are in control of it. So it might look heroic to outside, but in reality, you know, we are not taking that much of a risk. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there because we're not allowed to. You know,
they're not something.
No, but I mean, yeah, clearly you're still going sometimes into dangerous environments, so you can't really help it, but because that's the nature of the job. But
I remember in Whitby, went to the town and harbour up this hill.
Yeah.
And I think there was a museum at the top in a park or something.
Yeah.
Is that it?
The RNLI one is right down on the harbour side. It's in the old RNLI station. They have a new one now, but the town museum is up on the top. Yeah.
So I went up top of the nice there and had a look through all sorts because I was then interested in anything in archaeology and the history of the place because until I met Terry, my mate in Scarborough, I knew little about that coast.
Yeah, it's Karen. My wife's family are just south of there, just into Lincolnshire. So we've been up there quite a lot, and ended up friends had a place in Whitby, and we stayed in Whitby, and it was it's lovely. In the summer, it's awful. because it's
Yeah.
just so popular. It's heaving. But
You know,
in
sometimes, you know, things on the TV, you see the North Coast, Northeast is
yeah,
a bit dreary, and, you know, things like Vera, it's always dark and
yeah,
so much engineering in Newcastle or something. It's not all that, it's very far
Yeah.
from it.
no,
And it
it's-
was a lovely coast scarver and all the way up and down
it is. It is.
south
It is a lovely
into
coastline. Yeah,
Hull and all that. My
Yeah.
mother's people originally came from Lincolnshire.
oh yeah,
What's now is, well, the Peterborough and all that, further
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
up and down there. And I knew little about it until a few little invites. And I thought, yes, and Whitby was well known. I thought, well, let's go and have a look.
yeah,
Twice I've been there. And it was a terrific little harbour town, you know, the harbour, fishing
Yeah.
town, whatever, with lots of history there, famous. And,
Yeah.
you know, different culture of what's now in North Yorkshire, the Ridings,
Yeah.
gone. And then you think, yeah, well, that's all very nice, but North Sea is supposed to be pretty rough in the winter.
oh yeah,
I bet that's a tester.
yeah. I find it too cold on that side of the country.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So yes, and they're talking about, you know, a club is not open in the winter months because of the storms across the moors.
yeah,
You know, and they just say give up because they got that thing from the program. What was it? Heartbeat.
yes,
And I went to the village there, the pub and all the bits. And it's nice in the summer, lovely. You imagine now only
yeah,
winter cutting in with storms. Bad enough here, down
Yeah.
south. But it
Well,
gets pretty
Barrow?
rough and dangerous. Well,
We,
people still, you know, face the waves and go too
I
close.
haven't sorted everything out in there, though.
we
Interesting.
Yeah, we drove up over to Middlesbrough once, and driving up onto the moors. It was in the winter, and you could just see a snowstorm coming in. It was just black coming in from the coast. So we kind of like thinking, oh
Yeah.
my god, are we going to get across here in time? We got there just in time. He's thinking, oh, I don't want to get cut off in the middle of the moors here because there's nowhere to get away from.
Exactly. It's so close to a major incident once you
Yeah,
cross high areas, high plains, north, with storms coming in because you can soon get trapped.
yeah,
A friend of mine coming back up from Portsmouth once in a bad winter, and people were going all over the place.
yeah,
Ditches, and then you think if you're trapped there, you're not careful, you won't last.
yeah. You're in trouble. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
and we get that across the beacons in anyway.
Yes, yes.
You go into the back of my car. I got so much bloody emergency stuff. I'd be all right.
That's
Well,
good.
yeah.
Roger, I got 2 sleeping bags in the back of the car. Both one for me and you if we get trapped together, Roger.
I'll do that,
Mind
yeah.
you, Rog, we could zip the sleeping bags together, Roger. We could keep each other warm with our body warmth.
Yeah, I know all that. That'll be nice.
Yeah, well, Rog, you know, the way to keep ourselves warm with our body warmth, you've got to take all your clothes off, right? I don't mind cuddling up to you, Margaret, if we get stuck in a car, you know, it's perfectly natural to keep you
All
alive.
couple up together. Yeah.
Yeah, body mass, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
Judith, you
together.
can come and join us. Just strip down to your undies in a sleeping bag with us, it'll be fun.
Yeah, fine.
Oh, can I bring the dog?
Yeah!
Make sure you got the lacy ones on.
Hang on a minute, how many people we got in this sleeping bag? We got Margaret, Roger, me, the dog, and you. Oh my God.
I'll be the dog.
Margaret, nice. They'll stay there.
And you should always have a shovel in your boot as well.
Yes.
That's a blooming big boot in it. What are we talking about? Massive Wellington?
Well, you can get.
Oh, what
folding
was that
shovels.
cake? It was famous and walks up in the what was it up north in Cumbria? The something cake.
Kendall cake.
Kendall
Kendall
cake.
Kendall mint cake.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a-
that's
So,
Yeah, that's just loads of sugar, isn't it,
High
really?
energy.
so it'll
yeah.
give you a
Oh,
food
that's,
ticket.
oh my God. They used to sell that in booths. It's horrible.
It's lovely, especially
get
the brown
off.
one. The brown one
I
is
know
the
it's tried it, but they
nicest.
recommend it in places.
Anyway, talking of survival, I have slept
Oh,
in
no.
minus 35.
Ugh.
Yeah, what?
I
Slept
slept
over
in
minus
minus 35 but we had a little trick. bales of straw made into a little house with a tarpaulin over the top, and that's to get 8 or 10 people in an area. And you put your sleeping bag and you bury it under the straw, and you've got loose straw as well. But basically, minus 35 for 3 nights.
Minus 35. What's that?
Will, don't take this the wrong way.
Oh.
Have you ever seen Only Fools and Horses? You remind me of Grandad. He used to go, "No, Uncle, during the war."
Yeah.
I remember it well.
And when David Jason, he would come up, when he would call me and say, "How are you doing?" And I would say, "Fine." And he said, so's the old boy here.
Uncle Albert. Uncle Albert.
That's it.
I've often been called Uncle Albert. I'd be quite proud to be Uncle Albert.
Yeah, popular guy.
Could be worse.
Either people getting cold or frozen with the weather not properly, clothed.
What? Right. What are you on about?
I'll tell you that your nose will freeze.
Oh,
and
for
you get
God's
frostbite
sake.
within 2 minutes at minus 35.
Right.
So you have to use a face mask.
You're buggered if you're Barry Manilow then, aren't you? Right, okay then. Let's crack on. God, I can't deal with this. Right, okay. Right, okay. Let's just crack on. Let's go where we were. Oh, right. I got to figure out where we were. It's just Michelle's turned up. She's completely stark naked, sitting in front of me. So, that's
nice.
like. Right. Okay then. Right. All right. So, back to all of this. So, no kinds of togodumnus, right? And this whole thing about coinage, we had quite an in-depth conversation about coinage. Will had his views, Andy had his. We had all different views there, so that's good. Now, one of the things that we're seeing is that suddenly, with the death of Conobolinus, from AD 40, obviously with Arminius fleeing to Caligula, which we did last week, what we're seeing is after AD 41, there's a massive shift in sort of what's happening with the coinage. There's loads of gold and silver coins, right, going into sort of Caraticus, and again that sort of very thing that when we think about it, we're looking at coins of Claudius as well, and we're basically thinking that the iconography on these coins as well, British, they're leaning to sort of strong Roman iconography. Now, the one thing I would say, right, is the Catavilani tribe under Caraticus was very anti-Roman, but their iconography on coins was going in a Roman direction, which is really, really big, which is really, really big in the message. So we don't like Rome, but we're producing these coins to sort of echo the idea of Rome, but we don't like Rome and we don't want to be part of Rome. So this is really odd. But again, if you tie it into the coins themselves being used for trade over to Europe, this links into the Gaulish market, the Gaulish mints, and the trade routes. And when you think about this as well, these coins going over to the continent, the coins from the continent coming over here, inevitably they're going to be melted down and made into the issues of your own leader. Right? Surely that's going to be the case. And this is one thing that's happening throughout history. So if we look at British history, through the history of coins being produced, Michelle worked in the Royal Mint for a few years, and the Royal Mint's been going for over 1,000 years. So when a new leader's in place, their coins are melted down and put into the coinage of the new leader. Now, the one thing that's happening with Roman coins, and the one thing that's happening with British coins, is inevitably there's lots of leaders' coins in circulation, right? So that's different from removing the idea of previous leaders. It's almost as if it's a chronology of people and a story in your pocket, in regards to British coins, in regards to Roman coins, but naturally when they cross over borders, they're going to be made into the coins of that said leader. So it's that sort of coinage shift. It's a sort of you know, when we look at this, and if we compare it to sort of anything that Claudius is producing, obviously coins from Claudius are going to be quite stately, right? They're going to have quite a numismatic story. And this is from obviously after AD 43, and that you've got that there. Claudius spent only 16 days in Britain, but he was so proud of his conquest, he renamed his son Britannicus. So seen here with Mars on a sesterces from AD 51. So yeah, that's his son Britannicus. A Britannicus would never ever become emperor, because Agrippina Junior is having her own way, and Nero's going to become emperor, but that's looking at history. So one thing I would quickly say is that when we think about all of this, when we eye this up, we've got to think about, in the words, when we're looking at Caraticus and his coins up to roughly just after the Claudius invasion of AD 43, distribution patterns tighten regionally, right? So what's happening is that coins are circulating within sort of the territory of the Catavilani people, some going out, most remaining within those territories. Obviously there's some kind of individual market for movement of these coins, for whatever that means to us today. So interesting enough, you've got two comparisons of coins. Now that's his son Britannicus, right? But these two coins, so the one on the left is from Caraticus, the one on the right is from Claudius. And when it's sort of saying Caraticus and Claudius may have met in Rome long before Claudius invaded Britain in AD 43. No idea what that's about. That's very odd, whoever's making that statement. But let's look at the archaeology again. Both of these coins are silver, different types of silver. And if you go to my book, right, on page 59 in Romans in South Wales, this is in the 3rd edition. I don't know if it's the same numbers in all of the editions. So this is on page 59. A sesterces, for example, is sort of the one on the left is probably going to be similar weight to the one on the right. It's going to the British coins are going to be fatter than the Roman coins on the right, so they're probably going to be roughly the same value. It's basically saying this is when I said sesterces, that was one of the other coins. This is classed as a tetrachma, right? Now in my book, it's got the later Roman values of coins like denarii, like the aureuses, like the dupontus. But this silver coin is probably going to be the value of basically a silver denarius, which is going to be, again, the one on the right is going to be equal to a Roman legionary's wages. The one on the left is probably going to be equal to a Roman legionary's wages as well. However, a tetrachma is usually seen as 3 times the value of a denarius. So it might be the value of 3 days Roman wages, if we're looking at the values properly. But not to get lost in the values of these coins, interesting enough, we're talking about value, we're talking about importance, we're talking about maybe the Romans are recognizing British coins of having a certain value. We don't know. But what we do know is that the head on that coin on the left of Caraticus from roughly AD 43 is very proudly different from the one on the right of Claudius, and I'm sure you would agree. The one on the left is rather worn, the one on the right is not very worn. How long were the coins of Caraticus in circulation in Britain for? They obviously had some meaning, they obviously had some value. It's worn, right? So if that was made in AD 43, it remained in circulation whilst the Romans are taking over Roman era Britain. And I think that's an interesting point, not to make much of it, but I think that's a point indeed well made. Now, when we go back a little bit on our images, and we sort of let's bring in, for example, what we're going to do first, right? So let's just use this image a minute, and then we'll go on to the other stuff. Elite Roman material just before the invasion of AD 43. Again, back in the archaeology. Now this is interesting. This is interesting because this is a building associated with Craticus, accordingly, Caliva Atrebatum, and it's talking about a ditch at Caliva Atrebatum. We know that the Iron Age ditch around Caliva Atrebatum in the archaeology is nearly 5 meters deep and goes around Caliva Atrebatum for 1.5 miles. Now, if you want to compare that with something like Maiden Castle, which Maiden Castle, if I've got this right, Maiden Castle is a full kilometer of the perimeter, right? So, and again, there's 1.6. There's 1.6. So hang on a minute, let me work this out. There's 1.6 with hang on, I'm trying to work out the maths there. Hang on a minute, how many kilometers? Yeah, anyway, so basically, Caliva Atrebatum is got a wider, much more encompassing circumference than Maiden Castle. So Caliva Atrebatum was vast, right? It was going to be the vast capital. Back to where I was, it was going to be the vast capital of Caraticus. If the Romans hadn't have invaded Britain, and we think from archaeological evidence there's a big hall being identified. This may have been the hall of Caraticus. Now, interestingly enough, from the ground plan of this reconstructed building, is clearly linear, right? It's not circular, it's clearly linear, and this is the point. This takes us back to these earlier images that I haven't done, and I said I was going to do, right? This takes us back to there. So when we think of Caliva Atrebatum, these are some of the smaller buildings. We've got square buildings as well as round buildings. Very interesting. When years and years ago, this is what we used to say in archaeology, years and years ago, we used to say that round buildings represent Iron Age structures, linear buildings represent Roman era structures. But now we're actually starting to see in the archaeology at Caliva Atrebatum, before the Romans took over Caliva Atrebatum, there was in fact square rectilinear buildings alongside round buildings in Iron Age, developing oppidums, which are Iron Age towns in Britain. Oppidium is the name for an Iron Age town in Britain. And when you think about it as well, I come across this little reference, which is basically Heybridge, and they're basically saying that this locality of Heybridge was almost developed directly on a template of a late Iron Age town, and was just basically restylized in the Roman era. So what we're saying with this is, even before the Roman invasion of AD 43, Britain is actually going in an advanced way. It's not going to always be roundhouses. Roundhouses are going out the window. Roundhouses are no longer fashion. And the big question is, and I've got to remind myself of this, the big question is any of this influenced by the Roman world? From the beginning today, I've been talking about coins. I've been saying Iron Age coins in Britain influenced by the Roman world, right? But lots of the things on Iron Age coins in Britain are very British, right? Did we start making coins because the Roman world was making coins? That is the question. And I don't think the answer is the answer that lots of historians would say. I think that lots of things in Britain are going to happen anyway, with or without any influence from Rome. We may not be producing glass anytime soon. We never produced glass in Roman era Britain, or any evidence for it in Roman era Britain, whether then it was before and immediately after. So I think whenever we're looking at Roman era Britain for the next few months, I think we've got to be very wary of how influential Rome was to the British psyche. And one of the things, folks, I'll tell you a little bit of a secret, right? I'm constantly criticized by some people who actually follow me on YouTube. They always say, Carl, you're always saying that the Romans did this, the Romans did that. What about the British people doing this and the British people doing that? And my answer is, yes, they did. Because the late Roman mosaics in Britain are being produced by British people, right? The walls being built around towns and cities in Britain ain't being built by Roman legionaries. The wall at Caerwent, which is in South Wales. The wall around Caerwent is actually constructed by the local people in AD 300. There was no Roman military in Southeast Wales at that time, right? It was built by the local people. And you've got to start to think that lots of things in Britain are done very differently because they're being done by us. And how much influence did the Romans really have over a developing Iron Age Britain? I'm saying that they had a lot of influence, but at the same time, I'm saying that I might actually be wrong in some of that, which is okay. So, elite Roman material in Britain just before AD 43. So archaeology shows increasing Roman contact. Loads and loads of Italian wine amphora. This is known as Dressel 1, right? This is amphora imported in from France. There's a casing note on this, that this amphora being imported from France could have been imported into Britain and used by the people of Britain and not influence how we develop our society. That's a question. But we start to find a lot of this, even well before the likes of Caligula, even before the likes of Julius Caesar in 55 BC. There's lots of wine being imported into the country. And there is one point. We've got archaeological evidence saying wine's being grown in Britain well before any contact with Rome. That's another interesting point. Make of that as you will. You get grape pips at certain sites in Britain well before Rome was ever thought of. That's another point. Maybe we had our own wine before we started drinking wine from the Roman world. Again, that's an interesting thing to be saying, but no more about that. Now, it's also being said that Rome, for example, introduced the wheel, right, to make pottery in Britain. But it's also likely that we were turning to using the wheel well before any influences from the Roman world. But what we are importing is beautiful pottery like this that's never ever going to be replicated and produced in Britain. This is a fine tableware known as terra sigillata, Samian. And this Samian itself is something that people of Britain are importing and using on a mass scale. We were starting to experiment with coated potteries. We were starting to burnish pottery, but we were not able to produce anything like this. And I'm not saying that the people of Britain were stupid. British people weren't able to copy and replicate China until the 1800s in Britain. We were having to put up with Delftware from the Low Countries for from the 1500s, 1700s. You know, Britain with such an advanced society in the 1800s, we weren't able to produce the fine porcelains and the fine chinas until coming into the 1800s. It's the same as this Samianware. Even in Roman era Britain, after the Samianware factories had burnt down, we were unable to reproduce this. There was something known as Colchester Samianware, but it was just not as good, right? This stuff is being imported in, and it's a luxury. And I have actually seen it myself. We were doing some field walk in the Vale of Glamorgan, and there's still a report I've got to produce near a place called Porthkerry. and we found a nice piece of Roman samian where in the middle of the field it was so worn it's almost as if it'd been a family heirloom for generations. And the one thing about Roman samian ware is that it was repaired. Some of you may or may not know is that when pottery was so precious, if it was dropped on the ground, it wouldn't be glued together with super glue. It would be put together using lead. Right, and we find that in the archaeological record in the medieval period and definitely in the Roman period as well. Again, when we've mentioned this, teardrop vessels. We mentioned one the other week of Gilbert. He used to have two of these when he was still with us. And again, glass is something that's becoming very popular in Britain before AD 43 and continues into that period afterwards. But was it the Roman world that was importing this stuff? Glass is not a Roman object. Glass comes all the way from the Middle East. It comes all the way from Lebanon. It comes all the way from the Nabateans. It comes all the way from Egypt, right? This is not a Roman product. So, but people of Britain are still utilizing us and still loving glass. And this is not a testament of Roman influence. This is a testament of Britain trading far and beyond the Roman world. And we could say the same. We were trading tin with the people of the Mediterranean 1,000 years before Rome ever existed, you know, and it's like, we can't, what I'm trying to get at today is we're not going to be as obsessed by Roman influence as some people talking about the Roman world. I'm going to say that we're doing a lot of this. We really, really are. And we're also, there's one interesting thing. We're actually finding little miniature bronzes across Britain as well. Little figures of Jupiter and sort of various different brooches and so on. So that's little things that are starting to come into the psyche of the British people. But people have been producing statues and figurines in Britain well before the ancient Roman world. So we're going to do this by the end, right? And I'm very aware it's 9:34. So I've got a few things that I want to discuss. So I'm going to speed up a little bit now with a few less images. And let's just go to one of my little plans. And if we go to here, this is something that I grabbed off the internet. It's sort of giving you sort of an invasion plan. But for us, what's really interesting to me, right, is where the arrows are taking us, right? So one thing that's wrong about this is that okay, it's right about Canterbury, but Londinium didn't exist, right? So this is really interesting. Londinium didn't exist, so the arrows are wrong, right? But what you can say is the likes, it's not on there. Caliver Atrebatum isn't actually on there. Hang on a minute, but hang on, we've got to have a map with Caliver Atrebatum on it, otherwise it's not going to be any good. Right, yeah. Hang on a minute, let's just go with this one. It's not very clear, but you can say Caliver Atrebatum in the territory of the Atrebates. Right, so the places that we're really interested in, let's just draw them in. So we've got Caliver Atrebatum. We've got the likes of Camalodunum there. And we've got the likes of Verulamium there. And we've got Cantai. So let's just talk about this a little bit openly. Let's just try and sort of bring things sort of together at the end now. So here we go. So Rome went for Camalodunum. So they were very interested in the Camalodunum. They were very interested in Caliver Atrebatum. They were very interested in Verulamium, but Rome did not exist at that stage. Now, one thing about Cantai, which is here with my little red dots there, Cantai itself is going to be very important to the overall diplomacy, trade, client relationships, all these different things in regards to as Rome is starting to put themselves to invade Britain. But there's one area that's really interesting, is this area, Fishbourne and Cirencester. That comes into its own, and that is the story of Fishbourne is another one for another day. I know Roger went on, I think it was the last trip that Archaeology Company did.
Yes, that's right. It's what's the
Yeah,
name?
Roger. Yeah, Roger went to Fishbourne, and I don't know if he went to Cirencester, not Cirencester. If you went to Fishbourne and you went to Chichester, but if we sort of talk a little bit of a story, that you've got Boulogne there. We're talking about the archaeology on the French side and the likes of Amsterdam. You're talking about fortification strengthening. This is what the archaeology says: more coins, more structures, more archaeology, more military stuff at these localities. On the French side, harbours expanding. Velsen, Amsterdam, that's the Caligula site, which we've got new evidence for. Boulogne, that's expanding as well. You've got the Caligula lighthouse at Boulogne, which is crossed on there. So all of this is in regards to the preparation for Roman invasion of Britain. The archaeological evidence is there, but what we do have is that with the likes of Colchester, with the likes of St Albans, with the likes of Silchester, with the likes of Chichester, with the likes of Canterbury, settlements are expanding. They're oblivious to what's happening or what's coming. It's almost as if there's a new sense of urgency for the British people to advance their lot in society. But before AD 43, there is no evidence of any Roman raids, no Roman camps, no Roman legionary sites, no major Roman military influence. But what there is a lot of pottery, a lot of coins, a lot of tradal evidence. And if we get off this and we go to that other plan that we had earlier on, we go back to this one again on the screen, and we sort of look that after the death of Conobolinus, obviously we see a shift in the coin distribution. We see that there again, back to what I've said, there's an urgency. There's more going on at Chichester, which is and Fishbourne, which is near Chichester. There's more going on at Caliver Atrabatum. So I was looking at this and thinking, well, the night before AD 43, the archaeological reality. From archaeology alone, Britain shows no sign that the Romans are going to invade. And then on the day after AD 43, they're here. They're heading towards the capital of the Cantai people, Canterbury. The archaeological record suddenly suggests Roman military evidence. The occupation of places like Canterbury, the building of marching camps, the building of a proper military presence. And that's where Fishbourne comes in. And that's why we're going to be doing Fishbourne next week. Not Fishbourne. I meant Richborough. Sorry, start again. What we do see immediately after AD 43, there's a sudden appearance of a legionary fortress at Richborough, right? Richborough. And what we do see is that within a few weeks, we see Colchester captured, Camel and Dunham captured. There's probably a naval influence heading towards Colchester, not just a Roman marching military influence, because they've got to cross the River Medway, they've got to cross the River Thames and so on. So the Marines are landing to sort of head towards Camel and Dunham, Colchester. And it's likely the capture of Camel and Dunham, Colchester was quite an easy affair, because the people were already fully Romanized at Camel and Dunham, Colchester already. What's different is that the Roman military is going to establish a Roman fort at Colchester. That's the different thing. And obviously after AD 43, imported military gear. There's a massive increase in Claudian coinage, rapid road construction. There's lots of supply dumps. And that sharper rise in is archaeologically very clear. So this is very different from anything that we saw with Julius Caesar, very different from anything that we saw talking about Caligula or anything to do with Augustus. Something massive have changed. So this was strikingly absent before, even with Julius Caesar. Very little to no evidence with Julius Caesar's invasion, but this was a proper invasion. So before we sort of have a little quick look at Richborough, and we sort of get into that, the conclusion, archaeology only, between AD 41 to AD 43, there's an increasing Roman British elite contact. There's sort of contact with the continent and Britain. There's a massive political instability around the likes of AD 40 with the likes of Adminius being thrown out, and Caraticus and Togodumnus, and the coins and the circulation of those coins and what those coins mean, which we've already discussed in detail. Continental military preparation, where there's a build-up on the coast for something to happen in regards to Britain, but there's no material evidence of Roman troops inside Britain before AD 43. From archaeology alone, Britain was politically unstable but not yet invaded. So the one thing I want to finish now is by looking at Richborough and just basically mentioning Richborough. I think Richborough can be found on this map. Right. Oh, there it is. It's on the edge of the map. It's there. If you don't know where Richborough is, it's none of those. It's not there. Richborough is there. Right, it's very near Ebbsfleet. That's where Richborough is. And I'll just mention a little bit about Richborough to sort of let you leave with a bit of archaeology today. So if we go from there, and this is Richborough. Now, Richborough is an amazing site. And the reason why I want to do Richborough tomorrow, next week, not tomorrow, next week, is in a way Richborough gives us a microcosm of what Roman era Britain's like. It's got it all. It's got reconstructed stuff. It's got walls. It's got bathhouse. It's got ditches. It's got early stuff. It's got later stuff. And it's also got evidence of one of Roman era Britain's only triumphal arch. And it's got evidence of a harbour and everything, so it's got it all there. That's why I want to do it next week. So nice aerial view. So what you can see, you've got an earlier camp here. This would have been the first Roman legionary camp there, and obviously they've got another phase there, and then at some time they build this massive wall which has survived. Again, the archaeology is surviving really well. I've done a video on this on my Roman era stone remains of Britain. So I've done actually two. I've done one about the sort of triumphal arch, and I've done one about the wall. But what we do have is the next image, and there is the reconstruction. Now, I've often looked at this reconstruction and I thought, how true is this? Right, but that's the reconstruction of this sort of huge triumphal arch. So you'd leave a ship and you would walk under this arch, and it would basically, this was the gateway to Roman era Britain. We don't have much in the way of Roman triumphal arches in Britain. One or two have been sort of thought to exist in London, Londinium. I think there's other mentions at one or two other locations in Britain, but this one is a proper triumphal arch, and it's in a cross shape there, which it doesn't really tie out with this plan here. It may not have looked like that at all. I think it's really unlikely it looked like that, but it is a true triumphal arch. And again, Richborough was the place that you entered Roman era Britain, and it's the place that you left Roman era Britain. And in a way, if we start looking at Claudius next week, we can basically say Richborough is the place that Claudius first set foot in Britain. And the reason why this triumphal arch is built is because that represents where Claudius stood and took a break for the first time in those 16 days when he was in Roman era Britain. And on that note, we're going to call it a night. It's 9:47. We haven't gone totally to 10 o'clock yet, but I'm sure we'll probably manage it if Drina talks a lot. So there we go. So having Drina talking a lot, go over to you, Drina.
No, I'm sorry, I've got nothing to say.
If I ever get hold of another Iraqi banknote, right, I'll send it to you, Drina. Which is actually 5 dinars on his banknote, Central Bank of Iraq, with an image of Saddam Hussein on it. So there we go.
Marvelous. Yes.
Marvelous. Hey, he's got a nice moustache.
Oh yeah. Yes.
He looks really dishy. He's the ideal man for Margaret. Right, on that, anyway, thanks for that, Drina. Judith's still recovering from lying in the sleeping bag with me, Roger, and Margaret and the dog. Anything you want to say, Judith?
No, nothing. I love the coin stuff.
Good. Well, you can't get away from it.
Yeah. Sorry, that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Well, my when I did the last Romans in South Wales book, it was like I remember my most interesting coin were the coins of Honorius, dating from between 393 AD and AD 423, and we get them at Cardiff and Kenfig. And Cardiff is one of the last military locations in Britain that still had an active fort going beyond probably AD 420, and a very interesting locality. But that's for another day. Do you know what? Right. My first love affair was with the Roman fort wall at Cardiff Castle Fort. I tell you what. I even give it a name, and I called it. It was my first Michelle. Right. So nothing else from you, Margaret? No. Oh no, we haven't done Margaret. We've done Judith. Right. Okay, Judith. We've done you, Judy. Right. Anything from you, Margaret?
Well, I just read recently about the things that the Romans brought over that we didn't have before. They brought over little dogs.
Oh.
I think they found one recently buried with a Roman. And
I think you're correct. I think you're correct. Yeah, I think you're right.
We used to give them big hunting dogs, and they gave us little dogs. And they also introduced donkeys and mules.
And rabbits.
And rabbits as well. Yes, and rabbits.
We gave them trousers because it was a bit colder over here.
Right.
Yes.
So we gave them trousers. We introduced them to chariots to use in warfare. We introduced them to a better form of agriculture, advanced agriculture techniques for large-scale cultivation of grain, and we gave them barrel making and beer brewing.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah,
That's what the Britons did for the Romans. Exactly. We could do a reverse Monty Python.
Yeah.
What did the Britons ever do for us?
Culture.
And red-headed women. Oh, but you forget that one. They don't want any of them.
I guess, and we had the roads here already. Absolutely. All the major roads were already here.
Yeah.
So what did the Romans ever do for us then?
Well, they improved them.
And brothels.
Built nice houses.
Sanitation.
Did the sanitation.
Santa Claus.
They were very efficient. Oh, and we also, we invented segmented armor.
Ooh, didn't know that.
Now that is something that has thrown me. I want to know more. Right, that's your homework for next week. I want you to say, yeah, you could tell us more about that.
Flexible armor. Yeah, they've discovered that. We discovered that.
We did. We did.
Yes.
We did. That's good. talking about we did. Thank you very much, Margaret. Anything you'd like to say, Will? Don't forget you're on the clock, Will, because we all want to go to bed. Go on. He's disappeared.
We can't see.
We can't see.
Alan,
You keep flashing things.
Hang
Oh.
on. Go easy, Margaret. Will, go on, talk to us.
Hang on.
Keep still.
I found a coin. I'm trying to show you it for Togo de Munas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you off my phone, unfortunately.
Well, all my research tell me that there wasn't a coin for Togo Doomness.
Well, there is, and this is from a 1799 publication.
No,
Right.
that's cheating.
Hang on, I can't help you that. From the late Reverend D. Stuckley.
Right.
Stokely.
Yeah.
Stuckley, yeah, okay, Stuckley, yeah, it's got an E on it. Stuckley, not.
Was he a
not
grave digger?
Stuckley.
No, he was an
The Reverend-
antiquarian from
Oh, that's it, yeah.
1720. Yes.
I will send you, unfortunately, oh, there we are. You can only, yeah, I can't really, my screen
Right,
is,
I need the reference in the book, and I need that image. Send it to me, and I'll do it next week.
yeah, unfortunately, there are 23 plates with all the kings of Britain, the early Britons, but there are no descriptions in this particular publication that tells you who, where, when, and how, unfortunately.
All right.
But I'll
fair
send you
enough.
some stuff.
Anything else, Will?
No, that's it. It's all good stuff. Thank you.
All right then. Well, if I get hold of any more Saddam Hussein banknotes, we'll send one to you as well.
It won't come through the country. I'm sure the Trumpsters will stop it at the border.
Right, fair enough. Talking about Donald Trump, Roger hasn't got. Roger, if you sprayed yourself yellow, you might look like him. Anything you want to say?
no, I just want to question about April between us after.
What? Me and you want to chat? You want to chat afterwards? Yeah.
Yes, but things coming up with April.
All right, Rod. We'll when everybody's gone, make sure you stay on. Right. Okay.
Yes, I'm not going into it.
Okay. And it's a private conversation between you and I, is it?
Oh, yes.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Well, I'll have to make it. I have to take her off the camera on that one. Right. So,
Okay.
Andy, anything you want to tell us?
No, good, thanks.
And Andy, right? You're not 65.
Yeah, I'm nearly 66.
No,
Okay.
never.
Yeah, I know.
Never. You're lying.
Lying to get me pension. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Therefore, Karen must be 55 and she's 10 years younger than you, the baby snatcher you are.
Yeah, well, she's 6 years younger than me. Yeah. So,
Oh my God, I wasn't too far out. Fair
no,
enough.
no. But I'll tell you thought she was 10 years younger than me. That'll cheer her up. Yeah.
Yeah, I
65
think-
still very young. You're still very young at
Oh,
65.
yes.
You are, Andy. And by the way,
Yeah.
you can't retire. You've got all these houses to decorate and keep up going. So there you go.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
You're in your
Yeah.
prime.
Just put an estimate in for a church.
Really? Which
Yeah.
one?
Catholic one.
Oh,
Which
What, to
I
buy
went to
it?
school in. No, just to decorate it.
Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
you'll need a lot of gold paint then.
Oh, surprisingly little in there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get wallpaper not to show the joints?
Shut up, Rog.
A friend of mine had a business and he could do it. And if I did anything, he said, I can see the joint. Oh, thank you, Will.
Yeah.
That's a secret.
Shh. Anyone else want to say anything before we finish tonight, guys?
No, nothing else.
No,
Nothing
thanks.
sensible, no.
I think we've done all the mad stuff. Right, Roger's staying on, so I'll make sure we say goodbye to everybody else first, Roger. So and just one last thing before we do call off. I'm a bit worried about Anne, and I'm a bit worried about David, and maybe we need to put your brains together
wrong
and
with David?
maybe
What's wrong with David? Has he had a stroke or something?
No, I think David's. I think David's.
Not been well, David.
He's not been well. His house is probably cold. He's had a long winter, and he's a bit isolated over there in Grange. So
Well,
Well,
it
him
was-
and Anne are nearly 90.
Yeah.
They get tired.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I bumped into Anne the other day, just before, well, last Tuesday, just before the in the afternoon, and she said that she was going to be dropping out because she's getting very tired at the moment,
Yeah.
and when she gets her energy back, she said she'll come back. She's finding it fascinating, but she's just falling asleep at the moment.
Yeah, she's just tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, summer's,
That's right.
summer's coming, and she might be better.
Yes, she
that's
might
what
be,
I'm
yeah.
hoping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we won't forget about David's still with us. Just the thing is, the reason why Michelle mentioned it, she said, well, why don't you do something earlier? And and David wasn't faintly interested, so we'll leave that one.
Yeah.
All right. Oh.
You
Still
just
early.
lose your stamina as you get older,
Well, that's
Yeah,
right. It all fades.
staying power.
And your hair.
But
Exactly.
too easily fall
Oh,
asleep. Or
It's like when I'm
brain
sat here
fatigue.
with Michelle in front of me. She don't stop talking. I can't put up with it.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it grows out of your nose and your ears, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're losing it everywhere else.
Yeah, I understand. I can understand in your nose because you can filter dust and bits out, but why on earth in your ears? I've no
Yes, I
idea.
know. So unfair.
Oh, do you know, I like picking the hairs in my ears and chewing on them.
Oh, eh.
Right, I'll say good night
Yes,
to
it's time to
everyone.
say
See you
good
next
night.
week.
All right then, we'll call it a night now. So, anyway, night, Andy, Drina, Margaret, Judith,
night.
Will.
Bye.
Night,
Thank you.
Judy, babe. Rod.
Bye.
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 Night, Judy.
Margaret.
Bye.
Margaret. Night, love. Right, Roger. I will turn this off. You do on this broadcast. I'll turn it off. But stay there, Roger. I just gotta
Right.
look at the chat box. Nothing in the chat box there, so that's good. Anyone watching online, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Me and Roger are gonna have a private chat. He's gonna give me some love tips to sort of for the women. So we're gonna do that privately. We can't be
I need a
broadcast
number.
online. So we'll be back tomorrow, folks, at 7:10, and we'll be back next week. So we'll knock off that now. So hang on, Roger, I got to work out how to do it. Hang on a minute. Hang on. How'd you do it? Hang on. There. Hang on, Roger. I got to stop the record. I don't know how to do it. Hang on. Stop there.
Always phone me.
Hang on a minute, Rod. Shut up. Right there. Oh, host. There we go. Oh, hang on. What the hell? Are you still there, Rog?
Yeah.
I've just pressed a button somewhere. Hang on. Skip. On a minute, Rod. Shut up. Right there. Are you still there?
Yeah. Still here.
Oh, I can't, Rog. I just got to work it out. It's stressing my style a minute. Right, I got to do that. Stop video. Stop that there. And we do that there. Hosts, meetings, focus, cancel. Live, host. Stressing my style a minute. Oh my God. I gotta do that. Stop video. How'd you do it? That there. Into that period afterwards. But hang on. Was it the Roman world that was importing this stuff? Glasses. Are you still there, Rog?
Yeah. Still here. I'll go anyway. Yes.
All right. Okay. So, hang on. I'm trying to work out something technical that I haven't done for ages, right? So, disconnect audio. Right, that there. Audio job done. There. Meeting. Right there. Oh shit. Hang on. How the fuck do you do this? It's too complex, Rog. Flipping heck. Hang on. Don't you stop it, man. It's just like chilling my style out there. Video. Right. Oh, Rog, just talk. It's fine.
What for April?
Anyway, right, April, right. Yeah, just talk. Just tell me. Right, what is it, Rog? Go.
It's the number I sent you.
Ah, right. Yeah, so back to what you did last year.
Was it 350 or?
Well, the whole year, the
Yeah.
whole year is what, and your membership.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's 336.
336, dead on, okay?
Yeah,
I'll get that off before too long.
yeah, that'll be good. So does that start at the end of March, or does it start in April?
It's the 1st of April.
Oh,
That'll be
April
it.
Fool's Day. It bloody would
And
be.
I'll send it to your parents, is it?
Yeah,
Cannon
send it to
Street.
my parents. Yeah, send it there. Yeah.
And made out to Karl-James Langford.
Yeah, don't not last time where you made it out to Stalin. That they didn't take it, Rog.
Who?
Joseph
Yeah.
Stalin. I did manage to convince them that it was for me, right?
Yeah,
But
okay.
it took them a while, Rog.
Right. So I'll send it James Langford, yeah, Karl-James.
Yeah, Karl-James Langford. Yeah, that'll do.
336 by the 1st then, or on the 1st.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
will cover it all again, including the membership.
Yeah, which is 336. You could wind it up to 350, and I could buy Michelle a pizza, but that's life.
Yeah,
No, it's
whatever.
336.
If I feel generous. Okay, mate,
Yeah,
thank you. Interesting one. So much
Good,
involved. Well,
good.
it's
Was
getting a hand on it, and it raises more questions.
Yeah, it does.
After
It
they
does.
manage this in reality, like with the language, other things. What was here when they invaded, and finally, and how they managed it all.
I could see what I could see what Will was saying, but I couldn't see what Will was saying because he was looking in a modern context.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like for I didn't say this, but if you were wandering down the street, and you went down the road and said, "Oh, look, I got these gold coins, right? I want some food," and they said, "Well, what are we going to do with that?" You
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
But
And you say
but
that you could, if they got coinage, melt down and create their own. But if that's the way, because the natural thing was to barter.
because
I got
yeah,
so much of
exactly.
this. Like in the wartime, we did it. Sort of got so much on the thing. If you didn't want too much cheese, change out for, I don't know, eggs or something.
Yeah,
That was still there. It's in us, I think.
the thing is, in the Second World War, even if you had money, you still couldn't buy cheese, right?
That's right.
So, but if
It
you
was
had
a
something to
concept.
barter for the cheese,
That's
then you
right.
could buy the cheese.
What you grow in your allotment or something. Anything. But that's a natural thing to exchange. Money sort of makes it slicker, easier.
Yeah.
It's neutral then, but still. Okay, Carly. Thanks again. See you next week.
You got to leave us now, Rog. All right, then I will see you next week, Rog.
How's everything? What about that rash and everything on your back? Is that still there?
Oh no, the doctor cleared it up. There was this he said it was the worst thing he'd seen, and then suddenly I went there the following week, and it was really starting to clear up, and because my urologist was a bit bothered, and it was clearing up. Whatever this spray was, it was doing a job.
I'm not good. Yeah. Anyway.
But the weird
Let's
thing,
go.
it was
Give you a rest up.
centered on my back, so in one area. So
And your stomach, what about that?
well, weirdly enough, we're trying different things, and Michelle came back the other day, right, with which we'll have some tonight. It's this stuff, right? It's actually naturally fermented, right? Yogurt mixed up with beetroot, which has gone off, and even though it tastes absolutely foul, right? It helps.
Yeah.
It
I know,
helps.
easy enough.
What's that?
It depends on your makeup, but I knew from Jill that the end of a period can leave the tissues touchy. And they use yogurt sometimes to calm it down.
Yeah, they
Strange.
do. Yeah,
Little
exactly.
things you wouldn't know, women's things, but that's used that way. And there's probably other things you could use. It doesn't have to be something in the pharmacy.
No, exactly.
Another
Exactly.
subject about the cures laws. Okay, then leave it to it, Carl. Rest up.
I will, Rog, and thanks for your support. Continued, and I will see you next week.
Yeah, keep it going. Keep it going.
Take care, Rog.
See you, mate. Take care. And all
Good
up
one.
with Michelle. Yeah. Till on, mate.
Michelle Roger gives his love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, anyway, thank you very much for watching. Nobody could understand any of that anyway, so don't forget to chat. There we go. Nothing at chat box 1, 2, 3. Nobody else online there. Missed the chat on that one from Carol. There we go. Okay, nothing in the chat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nos da, diolch yn fawr.